We got everybody ready to go?
I might have to do it during the meeting if that's okay.
Who's over? It's supposed to be sitting there. Julie. Guess we better wait for her to show up. There she is. You guys ready to go? Okay, good evening. Welcome to Glendale City Council meeting of August 11, 2020. The meeting is called to order. Attendance roll call is not necessary. All members are in attendance. If you could please take note. Our next two items on our agenda are the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation is going to be delivered by retired Pastor Tom Wick of the First United Methodist Church. Gentlemen, if you would please stand with me, everyone please, not just men. Gentlemen, if you're wearing a hat, if you'd please remove it if it's appropriate. If you will stand with me with the invocation and then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Well, good evening, loved ones. Thank you for the invitation to be here. Would you pray with me? Almighty God, we come to the City Council meeting today, grateful for the incredible gifts of faith and of courage. For it was faith and courage that led people to this valley well over a century ago and put in their hearts a dream for a community called Glendale. Today we give thanks for those people who have lived there for generations, but we also give thanks for the newcomers and some that are so new they haven't even unpacked yet. As we gather today, like those people of long ago, may we continue to dream great dreams for our community, that we may be a place where all are invited, where all are welcome, and where every person has the opportunity to be everything you meant them to be. We ask your blessing this evening on our mayor, on the members of the City Council, and as we meet tonight, gently guide our conversations and our decisions, that what happens here this very day may be pleasing to you and may be a blessing to all those who call Glendale home. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Everyone, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. I'd like to remind everyone of the following. The meeting is televised live on the City of Glendale's Facebook and YouTube pages, as well as also Channel 11, Glendale 11. Our meetings are still currently located at the Glendale Civic Center and will remain that way until the COVID-19 gets a little bit better under control. With the audience seated next door, we respectfully request that if you're unable to social distance, make sure that you please do. And also, if you'll wear your face covering and just be safe. For those of you in the audience seated next door, please be aware that those of us in this room, we have a screen that allows us to see you, while those of you in the room next also have a screen that allows you to see and hear what's occurring in this room. With that said, if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, please complete the golden card and give it to the officer in the room that will be given to the city clerk and then passed on to me. If you've submitted a speaker card and indicated that you wish to speak on an agenda item, I'll allow you the time to make your way to the room and to the podium to speak. We'll be allowing 3 minutes for each speaker tonight on all agenda items. Please keep in mind the citizens' comment section is at the end of each voting meeting, and you'll be allowed for the public to speak about anything that's not on the agenda. I'd like to thank everyone for your patience. With that, I would like to ask for the consideration of the minutes from the June 23rd, 2020 voting meeting. Council members, do you have any corrections or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the June 23rd, 2020 voting meeting minutes?
Mayor, I move we approve the minutes of June 23rd, 2020 voting meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hughes, a second from Councilmember Tomshoff to approve the minutes. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Here's the ayes have it. Do have it. That motion does carry. And then we also have the consideration of the minutes from the July 9, 2020 special meeting. Any corrections or additions to those? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the July 9, 2020 special meeting minutes?
Mayor, I also move we approve the minutes of the July 9th, 2020 special meeting.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion also from Councilmember Hugh and Councilmember Tomasoff to second to approve the minutes. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it. That motion also carries unanimous. Moving on to boards and commissions and other bodies. For those of you that are nominated, please wait to come forward until a council member, Aldama, calls you up, and that'll be after we take a vote. So if you're in the room next door, as you hear your name, you can make your way to the hallway, but don't come into this room until we vote and then call you into the room. With that, council member, do you have any nominations to offer for boards, commissions, and other bodies?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I motion to approve the following appointments. Cookie Peverini to the Community Development Advisory Committee for a term ending 6/30/2022. Ezekiel Ojo to the Community Development Advisory Committee for a term expiring 6/30/2022. Calvin Carballo to the Library Advisory Board for a term expiring January 31st, 2021. Lisa Baker as Chair of the Community Development Advisory Committee for a term expiring 6/30/2021. And Leslie Mill as Vice Chair of the Community Development Advisory Committee for a term expiring 6/30/2021, Mayor.
Okay, if that's all you have, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Aldama, second from Councilmember Tomasoff to approve these citizens to boards, commissions, and other bodies as read by Councilmember Aldama. All in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote nay. Here's the ayes have it, do have it. That motion carries unanimous. Councilmember Aldama, would you please call our newly appointed members to join me up here in front of my table?
Thank you, Mayor. We have only two joining us today. Will Ezekiel Ojo and Cookie Peverini please join us in the room?
We have the swearing in.
And I saw him get up. Get over here.
Thank you. Good to see you both. Cook, if you'll stand here, you'll stand here. Okay, if you will, hold your right hand up, and you can state your name. Say, "I" state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties okay, my turn, of my office according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations, thank you. Go, hold it. And stand right here, we'll get a picture real quick. Go ahead and turn around. There you go. Yeah, smiling isn't gonna work right now. Perfect, thank you, welcome.
Okay.
Next up is our consent agenda and consent resolutions. We'll now move to our consent agenda, items 4 through 21. On the consent agenda are a routine nature or have been previously studied by the City Council at a workshop session. They are intended to be acted upon in one motion by this council. Ms. Bauer, will you please read the consent resolutions, item 15 through 21?
Item 15, resolution number R 20-92, a resolution of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing and directing the entering into of a memorandum of agreement between the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and the Glendale Police Department for the reimbursement of overtime salary costs associated with the ATF task force. Item 16, resolution number R 20-93, a resolution of the council of the city of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing and directing the entering into of grant agreement number ACESF-21-023 with the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission for acceptance and expenditure of the Arizona Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program award in the approximate amount of $163,000 and $163,086 for personnel, overtime, professional and outside consultant and contractual services, and operating expenses, supplies to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus. Item 17, resolution number R 20-94, a resolution of the council of the city of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing and directing the entering into of a grant agreement number 2020-VD-BX-1656 with the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs, and authorizing the acceptance and expenditure of the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program award in the approximate amount of $266,504 on behalf of the Glendale Police Department. Item 18, resolution number R 20-95, a resolution of the council of the city of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing and directing the entering into of a grant agreement number CV 19-20-008 with the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission for acceptance and expenditure of the Paul Coverdell Forensic Sciences Improvement Grant Program Award in the approximate amount of $2,444 to improve forensic science services. Item 19, resolution number R 20-96, a resolution of the council of the city of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing the acceptance of the Arizona Central Region COVID-19 grant funding in the approximate amount of $10,000 on behalf of the Glendale Fire Department, and authorizing the expenditure of such funds for personal protective equipment due to the onset and continuation of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Item 20, resolution number R 20-97, a resolution of the council of the city of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing and directing the entering into of an intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement with national purchasing partners for the purpose of making cooperative purchases. Item 21, resolution number R 20-98, a resolution of the council of the city of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing and directing the entering into of an independent contractor agreement with Arizona Community Action Association doing business as Wildfire for Community Action Program funding effective July 1, 2020 to June 2021. And that concludes the consent resolutions.
Thank you. I have one card here that I believe it's item number 4. Jake Curtis wanted to speak on. I believe it's number 4. Mr. Curtis, are you here? Did you want to speak on item number 4? Okay, take the podium if you would, sir. State your name for the committee, and if you live in the district, name the district. If you don't live in the district, the city that you're from.
Okay. Thank you.
You do need to hold this up.
Yep. My name is Jake Curtis. I'm an attorney at Birch and Cracchiolo. I do not live in the district or in Glendale. I live in the city of Phoenix. I've been retained by the applicant for a liquor license. This is the Chimney Days Smoke and Vape Shop. My understanding is that the protest is based on the fact that they had what may be a gaming device in their shop for a short period of time. The owner of that device assured them that it was legal. When they got notified that it was potentially not legal, they stopped using it. Then the owner gave them a bunch of data, said that it was legal, that they were working it out with the Department of Gaming. They didn't hear from the Department of Gaming. No one gave them a notice of violation. Then when they filed their liquor license application, the investigator from the City of Glendale Police Department came in, told them that the devices were arguably not legal, so they immediately unplugged them, put them in the back, and never used them again. So these devices have not been used since they first got notified in March by the City of Glendale PD. And my understanding is that the legality of these devices is currently being adjudicated before the Department of Gaming. And so if that's the only basis for denying the liquor license or submitting a protest to the Department of Liquor, just wanted you to understand those circumstances and understand that The applicant in this case was completely innocent, was assured by the manufacturer and owner that the device was legal, and as soon as they learned that it was potentially not legal, they immediately stopped using it. And so the applicant does meet the criteria for getting a liquor license. They have otherwise no violations, a perfect history, no criminal record. And so I'm here today to ask you to not submit a protest to the liquor license. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the council to Ms. Tomachoff?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask Mr. Bailey what would be the appropriate action to table the item for the time being, or?
Mayor and council, there's generally a time frame that the state places on these, so the applicant may have, I'm looking at the applicant's representative, because if there is the desire to research more information, then you could table it, otherwise you could amend your motion. But generally, there is a time frame within which the city is to make a decision on these. If not, then they're actually deemed approved by the Department of Liquor. So ultimately, my recommendation would be to actually take action on the item with what you see as appropriate. And if you have any questions, I believe there's probably staff who's available to answer those questions.
Yeah, I would personally like staff to come up, preferably Rick, if you could give us the city's side of that, if you would.
Member mayors of the council, the background investigator for the police department provided a written documentation outlining his investigation. Back in April, he went to the business, not knowing that the gaming department had already been to the business. He personally witnessed the gaming device in the business at that time, had a conversation with the owner who claimed that she didn't know that the device was illegal. And reporting the device to the gaming department, learned from the gaming department that they had already been to the business, that they had already contacted the owner, notified her that the device was illegal, and told her that it needed to be removed. They were met with quite a bit of resistance from the owner, who didn't recognize their authority, didn't want to talk to them, didn't want to provide identification. Our investigator, our background investigator from the police department, met some of the same resistance from the owner. And for that reason, as well as for the reason of the gaming devices, his recommendation is that this council protest this license based on capability, qualification, and reliability.
Questions from the council?
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm concerned with the denial based on the background from the police. They've only had a total calls of service of 11, and we're going to go into another one here in a minute at number 5, 73 calls, and there's calling for an approval of that one. So I'm not too sure that I'm in favor of denying this one based just on that item. If it's been rectified and it's done, I don't see why we would disapprove of this liquor license for this business. They've only had 11 calls for service, 9 other non-criminal, 1 fight, and 1 fraud and forgery. And then the item that Mr. St. John is referring to has been resolved, so I don't see any reason why to deny it tonight.
Mayor?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Is there a way to find out, I mean, if pushing this back to the next voting meeting to at least, verify that maybe it's been resolved, or that the statute that doesn't allow this is being changed? I mean, I don't know how to know whether that's correct or not. So, is there a way to know? I mean, we could table it and still protest it in 2 weeks if that's what we decide we want to do, if that timeline works for whatever it is that you were talking about, Mr. Bailey.
Mayor and council, I'm looking at what's been provided in the staff report, and I don't see anything with regard to a due date. However, I note that if we are going to be protesting within 2 weeks, there would not, I think we would, for the most part, be okay if you wanted to continue it for 2 weeks. But nothing greater than 2 weeks, and that's just because we don't want to send a message that it's deemed denied because we're not considering it. And what we can do is send information to the Department of Liquor saying that we are considering it in due course. And we had a couple extra questions if that's the desire of the council.
Mayor, I believe that we should uphold the finding of our staff on this issue. The number of liquor licenses granted or in the area have no bearing on this because that's not the reason for the protest. The protest is because of a gaming device. Yes, it has since been removed. But as Mr. St. John stated, they did not receive immediate cooperation from the proprietor of the business. I would think that if they are willing to ignore this issue, what other issues down the road will they also skirt? I believe it shows a habit and practice and pattern of disregard for certain rules and regulations. And I believe in upholding, in this case, the recommendation of staff. So I would recommend that we support staff on this and recommend protest. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, thank you. Perhaps Mr. Bailey can answer what is the effect of our recommendation or recommendation to deny? Is it definitive, or is it a recommendation that is just considered by the commission?
Mayor and council, as a matter of practice, and we haven't sent them, but historically, we haven't sent any in the recent years, but my understanding of the practice and my historical experience is that, well, first and foremost, from a legal perspective, is the city does not issue the liquor license. We just issue a recommendation. So even with a recommendation for a denial or a recommendation to challenge it, that does not mean that is what's going to happen at the state level. It's just our recommendation. So noting that the outcome of the liquor license is not definitive tonight if we say yes or no.
Mayor, thank you, Mr. Bailey. So the applicant has an opportunity to present its case and get a full hearing in front of the Department of Liquor Licenses and Control. And that being the case, and based on what we've heard from our Deputy City Manager, I would be comfortable in going with the staff recommendation for denial and let the Department of Liquor Licenses and Controls hash it out.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, thank you. I can't hear what you're saying. You can come back up to the podium.
Could I address some of the comments made? Maybe I could.
Take your,
Oh, I'm sorry. Could I address some of the comments that were made as the applicant?
go ahead.
The first thing I would say is that
Okay, you have to talk louder or pull the microphone closer to your mouth or something.
line
There you go. Now we're talking.
for the time in which the city has to file a protest. So if there's additional investigation that somebody would like to do, we're perfectly fine with that. One other thing I'd like to note is that the Department of Gaming has actually never indicated or identified that these are illegal gaming devices. That's something that's being adjudicated now with the manufacturer, something called Integrity Gaming out of Utah. And they've never been issued a notice of violation from the Department of Gaming, that the applicants are completely innocent in this matter, that they were informed by the gaming manufacturer and the actual owner of the games that they were legal. They were told by the Department of Gaming that they were not, and so they interfaced back with the owner. The owner gave them a thick packet of things saying these are actually legal under Arizona state law. And then when the city of Glendale Police Department came in and said, so to step back, the Department of Gaming never followed up with them once. They never came back and said, these are illegal, you have to remove them. They never got correspondence from the Department of Gaming. All they knew is that the owner told them that they were legal and could be maintained there. When they heard from the City of Glendale Police Department that they were not legal, they immediately turned them off, put them in the back. The owner kept telling them that they were legal, and they said, look, this is a dispute between you and the Department of Gaming. You guys work it out amongst yourselves. When it's all resolved, maybe we'll revisit it, but we want to get our liquor license, and we want to be in compliance with the law. So that's what happened in this case. They have done nothing wrong. They've not been adjudicated to do anything wrong, and the gaming device is not even determined to be illegal yet. So I just don't think that's a basis to deny, to file a protest. And just to clarify what the process is, if there is a protest from the city, all that really means is that the liquor board will hear it instead of it being administratively reviewed by the Department of Liquor.
Right.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was the only speaker card I had, so we are... What number are we at?
Mayor. Mr. St. John's looking for your attention.
No, I knew where that was. I was,
Need a motion?
Motion for the consent agenda.
right.
Well, I believe item 11 is being pulled.
Yeah, that was pulled to be heard separate.
He hasn't asked for it yet, but okay.
No, not yet.
I'll make a
You're just
motion
on
for
that
that.
Actually, it wasn't pulled. I simply had a card for them to
No.
speak on it.
Item 11 is being pulled for discussion,
Okay.
but I can make the motion if you're ready.
That was item number 4. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right, Mayor, I move approval of consent agenda items 4 through 10 and 12 through 14, and consent resolutions 15 through 21.
Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion from Councilmember Tomachoff, a second from Councilmember Clark. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Your ayes have it, do have it, that motion carries. Okay, so item 11, Mr. Aldama, you wanted that heard separately.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Item 11,
Authorization to enter into Amendment 1 to the professional service agreement with J2 Engineering and Environmental LLC to provide design and construction administration services for the splash pad at O'Neill Park.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report is City Engineer David Beard.
Mayor, City Council, this is a request for City Council to authorize the city manager to enter into an Amendment 1 to the professional services agreement with J2 Engineering and Environmental Design LLC in an amount not to exceed $65,334.65 for design and construction administration services related to the splash pad at O'Neill Park. This is a new request amount, together with the current not to exceed amount is $155,334.65. In December of 2019, Council authorized J2 to start the first phase of the design for the splash pad at O'Neill Park. The agreement included a phased architectural design service for the O'Neill Splash Pad project. The Phase 1 scope included development of 90% design construction documents for a new splash pad in the site of the former pool and bathhouse. The scope of services proposed for Phase 2 includes the final design of the splash pad, bid and award services, and construction administrative support services. This concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Beard, thank you for your presentation. So a couple questions. The first question is, where was the hang-up since we approved this back December in 2019, and we're not at 99% drawings yet? Can you or somebody on your team explain why it took so long from December to now to get this far?
Mayor, council members, I'm going to bring Parks Director up, Jim Burke, but
Thank you.
They presented the project in December. I'll let them walk through the design process.
So, Mayor, if I may, so before you move on, it sounds like there's two phases here. Parks and Recreation had a piece of it and then handed it off to you. And before you move on, can you tell us what piece of it you had, or how long did it stay with you?
The first phase of the project was to bring the design to 90%.
Okay.
And the second phase of the project is to do the final 10% or final drawings, or what we're presenting today, which is the final 10%, bid and award services, and then construction administration services.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David. Mayor and members of council, that original contract for $90,000 to take us to 90%, we brought in December of 2019. We anticipated that to be a 180-day contract, and it made that schedule. So when we turned it over to engineering, we were pretty much on schedule. And then they're bringing it to you in this meeting instead of the first meeting and the last meeting of the fiscal year. That's what, the only delay we've had.
I don't remember, Mayor, if I may, I don't remember us saying that it was going to be a 180-day process, so we granted you 180 days for that project, and you're saying you met it.
That, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Aldama, yes, that was our estimate in the scope of work that it would take the contractor 180 days to do the design to that level.
Thank you for that. And I have another question. Granted, we're in a pandemic, so you just can't get out to the community. Remind me, was there a process within your department that you were going to reach out to community members on ideas of what we were going to do with the splash pad and any other amenities?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Aldama, no, we did not do community outreach. This evolved over a couple of fiscal years, budget discussions with the council about demolishing the old pool there. I don't remember the exact date, but we got a CDBG grant. We brought that to the council. That went through CDAG and came, and we've been working on that process. That's almost all complete. There's a little bit of work still to be done to get that wrapped up. It should be done by October. Excuse me. And then this contract that David's taking forward, the design contract will be done, I think, in January or the end of this year, and then the construction can begin next calendar year, excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor, if I may. So, and then the next, Mr. Burke, thank you very much. Then, Mr. Beard, can you tell us what the schedule is going forward? We're going into fall now, so when do you project that the project will begin, and when will it be ready for use?
Mayor, City Council, the project timeline is to have the 100% drawings submitted to the city by the end of October. And then at that point, we need to send it through building services for the building permit. So I anticipate by the end of October, we will have that, and we can, at that point, either use a JOC or put it out for bid for construction. And each of those has their pluses and minuses. JOC would be the fastest, and we anticipate 6 to 9 months for construction.
So 6 months would put us into summer, which would be good the following year. 9 months would put us past that. So I'd like to see it done on time for the following summer.
Yes, Mayor. Yes, Mayor, City Council, the one hangup that we have is the equipment. So there are some long lead item equipment, and when I say 6 to 9 months, that's the variance that we're seeing is the time to order that equipment.
Mayor, if I may, yeah, so there's some lead time on that, I get it. What would not be good is that if we finished it and then we had to wait all the way through the fall, winter for another summer, so it would sit there vacant. So thank you. I yield to the council if they had any questions.
Yeah,
Thank you,
agreed.
Mayor.
My questions were answered, so.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Mayor, I move approval of the authorization and to enter into an amendment to the professional services agreement with J2 Engineering.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Tomachoff, second from Councilmember Aldama to approve the recommended action. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimous. Moving on to bids and contracts. Ms. Bauer, would you read or introduce item number 22, please?
Award RFP 20-41 and authorization to enter into an agreement with Canopy LLC for electronic resources.
I have no speaker cards.
No, sir.
Okay. Anybody need an explanation on that? No? Okay. Can I get a motion?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I move we award RFP 20-41 and authorize the city manager to enter into the described agreement with Canopy LLC.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Turner, second from Councilmember Tomachoff to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes,
Hearing-
Mayor.
Go ahead.
As is my habit and practice, this and the following item are 5-year contracts. I do not believe that they are appropriate. There were 15 respondents. It certainly is a hot market for that kind of service, and I believe that it is the type of contract for customary and usual services that should be awarded more often. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. So, we had our discussion, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Eldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, the motion does carry. Moving on to item 23, please.
Award RFP 20-41 and authorization to enter into an agreement with Overdrive for electronic resources.
Any speaker cards?
No, sir.
Okay, any questions from the council? Hearing none. Can I get a motion, please?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I move that we approve item number 23, RFP 20-41.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember, Vice Mayor Melner, second from Councilmember Hugh to approve recommended action. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Councilmember Eldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Excuse me?
Aye, sorry.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
You get me all.
Chair votes aye, the motion does carry. Could we introduce item 24, please?
Authorization to enter into a linking agreement with Torrent Resources, Inc. for dry well maintenance, installation, and repair services.
Okay, any speaker cards?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any council, any questions? Hearing none, can I get a motion? Anybody? Anybody at all?
Mayor, I move that we approve item number 24 as presented.
Second.
Okay, a motion provided by Vice Mayor, second from Councilmember Clark to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Eldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, the motion does carry unanimous. Public hearing, land development actions. We'll now move on to just that. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 25?
Resolution number R 20-99, a resolution of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending the general plan map of the City of Glendale, Arizona by approving General Plan Amendment GPA 19-10 for property located at the southeast corner of Glendale Avenue and 83rd Avenue. Ordinance number O 20-55, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, rezoning property located at the southeast corner of Glendale Avenue and 83rd Avenue from NSC Neighborhood Shopping Center to PAD Planned Area Development for a development plan entitled G83 Plaza, amending the zoning map, providing for an effective date, and directing the city clerk to record a certified copy of the ordinance.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report this evening is George Gaylord. He's our senior planning project manager.
Mayor and Council, good evening. George Gaylord, once again, sitting in for Lisa Collins, the planning administrator. The case before you is G83, which is a mixed-use planned area development, specifically two items, a general plan amendment 19-10 and a zoning change Z01-1905. This is a vicinity map depicting the location of the property. It's about 3 miles northwest of City Hall. It's located at the inside corner, I should say the southeast corner of, Northern Ave and 83rd Ave.
No.
Glendale.
Correction.
Excuse me,
Glendale
Glendale?
Avenue and 83rd Avenue.
Glendale,
Southeast
sorry.
corner.
Southeast corner, correct. There are two parts to the request. The first one is a general plan amendment from planned commercial to corporate commerce center, as well as a rezone from neighborhood shopping center, NSC, to the planned area development, PAD, to allow for a mixed-use planned area development. The applicant is John Froke, Urban Planning, John Froke Urban Planning LLC. The project area is 8.23 acres. It's depicted before you is a portion of the general plan map adopted by the City of Glendale, designating the project site as planned commercial. This is a depiction of the zoning on the property and the adjacent properties. Neighborhood shopping center is the current zoning. There are residentially zoned properties to the north, east, and south, single family to the north, multifamily to the east and south. Areas to the northwest and west are zoned commercially at this point. A little better depiction of the site. The property is vacant at this time. Once again, you can see kind of the development pattern and the residential development that occurs north, east, and south of the site. Again, northwest and west, those are all commercially zoned properties. This is a depiction of the site plan. For you, what you're looking at there is a multifamily project on the east half of the site. 88 multifamily units on a little over 5 acres at a density of 17.4 units to the acre. The planned area development also calls for retail development at the hard corner, 15,000 square feet on 1.2 acres, and 5,000 square foot commercial on 1.2 acres to the southwest portion of the site. That may also include some hotel lodging. Also depicted on the screen are 3 red asterisks depicting the current proposed access locations. This is something that's still being worked out with the Transportation Department. These are some elevations that have been provided in support of the request. These are the residential elevations, concept for the residential elevations, concept for the possible lodging facilities, hotels, and for the retail portion of the site. As far as public involvement with this request, there was an initial notice mailed out in May 13 of 2019, last year, to property owners within 300 feet of the project boundary and other interested parties. That was followed by a neighborhood meeting at Westgate, at the Hampton Inn, I believe. The request has since been advertised. The hearing this evening has been advertised and posted May 14th of 2020. We've also mailed hearing notices regarding the request on May 17th of 2020. We received 1 comment in support of the project. There should also be a citizen participation plan attached to your packet, detailing the public involvement portion. Staff finds the request is consistent with the Glendale General Plan, that it complements adjacent development at Westgate, encourages infill in a greater variety of land uses, housing types, and design. Staff is therefore recommending approval of GPA 1910 and ZON 1905, subject to the following. 1, the site plan dated May 1st of 2020 and elevations dated May 1st of 2020, that they are considered conceptual and are subject to final design review approval. 2, the applicant shall work with the city's transportation department to resolve the design, location, and number of access points to the site. The number of access points, the width of the access, and the design of the driveway shall adhere to the City of Glendale's engineering standards. 3, the applicant shall submit a traffic impact study at the time of design review submittal. The study shall be performed in accordance with the procedures and requirements of the McDOT Traffic Impact Study Manual. 4, the developer shall provide the half-street right-of-way dedication along Glendale Avenue and 83rd Avenue with all associated roadway improvements that are listed in the City of Glendale's engineering standards. 5, the 12-kilovolt power lines along 83rd Avenue shall be placed underground. 6, a minor lot division shall be required if buildings are to be developed over the lot lines. 7, the developer shall record a notice to prospective purchasers of the proximity to Glendale Municipal Airport in order to disclose the existence and operational characteristics of the airport to future property owners or tenants of the property. 8, design review will be required. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you. Questions from the council? No questions from the council. Public hearing is required, so we'll have a public hearing is now open on item 25, Resolution R 2099, Ordinance 020-55. I have no speaker cards on this item. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak? Seeing none. Public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion on Resolution R 20-99 on item 25?
Yes, Mayor, I will make a motion, and then I ask to make some comments regarding the project. I move that, let me find the right place. I move we adopt resolution number 20-99.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Clark, second from Councilmember Melner to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes,
Councilmember
Mayor.
Clark.
At this time, I have presented all of council and senior staff with my remarks regarding this item, and I would like to read them into the record, the public record. so you will please bear with me. This proposal is located at the southeast corner of 83rd Avenue and Glendale Avenue. It has remained a vacant parcel for at least 15 years due to the owner's inability to acquire any users for this site. As of this date, despite their request for a general plan amendment and rezoning, the owner still has no end users. The owner is requesting carte blanche approval for a variety of uses on this site with no assurance that the conceptual plan offered will actually become a reality. Now, I have no objection to a change in the general plan and the zoning that's requested, as long as there is more specificity with regard to the permitted uses on this site. If this site can be successfully developed, it may well provide the impetus for the redevelopment of the northeast corner and the northwest corner of this intersection. I then provided some pictures for council showing all 4 relevant corners, which I will not share with the public. I go on to state, I welcome the development of this corner for commercial usage. I am pleased to see activity occurring at this site. However, I do have concerns. In the conceptual site plan, about which the owner freely states the conceptual plan could change dramatically, as no end users have been identified. I support his request for the concept of a hotel and retail pads, but the problem is that the accommodation appears to have been made for only 4 retail pads, with the majority of the entire site, 61% of the total of 8.2 acres, or 5.05 acres, being designated for a 4-story multifamily apartment complex. I would bring to your attention that directly south of the site is the San Bellino multifamily complex. It is 2 stories in height and contains 180 units. A 4-story multiple family complex is not appropriate for this site. It is certainly not compatible with the surrounding area, and certainly not in terms of heights. Heights greater than 2 stories have been deliberately and specifically earmarked for the Westgate area proper. I would also bring to your attention that over 4,000 multifamily units are either already constructed, under construction, or planned for the Westgate-Zonjero area. That is the appropriate location for mass and density. And I will support concepts that create that mass and density in the Westgate-Zonjero area. As I have demonstrated in past decisions, I have no objection to multifamily in West Glendale when appropriately cited to support the success of Westgate. Mr. Froke, the applicant's representative, made the following representations at the Planning Commission meeting of June 4th, 2020, when questions about the multifamily were raised by Planning Commissioner Nowakowski. And I quote what Mr. Froke said, quote, "In all likelihood, there will be no residential component," unquote. And, quote, "The applicant would agree to stipulations to reduce the amount of multifamily," unquote. So with regard to those representations, his representations regarding multifamily on this site, I'm going to offer 2 stipulations directly related to this concept. Stipulation number 1, any multifamily constructed on this site shall be no more than 2 stories in height. So, Mayor, before I go on to stipulation 2 or 3, do you want to take them one by one? How do you want to?
I think just present your whole case and then let's.
Okay. Second stipulation, multifamily can comprise no more than 40% of the developable land on this site. I would also state that since there is a Circle K convenience store and gas station directly across the street from this site, it does not appear to be appropriate or logical to encourage an identical use. I will therefore offer a third stipulation, and that third stipulation would be that conditional land uses of gasoline sales / convenience stores will not be permitted on this site. That ends my remarks. So in addition to making that the motion for approval, I also offer those three stipulations, Mayor.
Okay. Comments?
Mayor?
Good.
I'd like to hear from the applicant on these developments.
Mr. Froak?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. John Froak. I live in the Choya District in Glendale. Office is in Phoenix on 28th Drive. We come here tonight with a site that's been vacant for literally for decades. From roughly 1985 to about 2005, it was zoned multifamily. The current property owner, who's not here tonight, he's local, rezoned the site to NSC, the existing zoning neighborhood shopping center. I think this is the only site in Glendale that's zoned NSC. One of the restrictions with NSC is that you have to develop the site with 50% of the site or no development occurs. And so the property owner for about 15, 17 years has tried to find users. With respect to Councilmember Clark's comment that we don't have any users, we actually do now. The Planning Commission hearing was about 2 months ago. The property owner has the property owner in escrow to a developer. I'm not at liberty to disclose who that developer is. They also were local. They bring a wealth of existing development experience to the table. They do have end users that they are bringing as part of the escrow for the property. My client, he's an investor and doesn't really develop property. He tries to get sites positioned where they can be brought to market and developed. We do have the full support of Planning Commission, staff recommendation of approval. We agree with the 8 stipulations. Literally about an hour ago, I was made aware of the stipulations that Councilmember Clark read out loud. We cannot live with those. We feel like we've done the neighborhood work. Mr. Gaylor mentioned the neighborhood meeting that we had last year with David Williams. I was there, my client was there. We have full neighborhood support. We fielded a couple of calls with adjacent property owners that are anxious to see the property develop. We'd like to agree with the staff recommendation, the Planning Commission recommendation, and the 8 stipulations that are part of the PowerPoint. And with respect to what was said at the Planning Commission meeting, that was a attempt, if you will, to try to maybe lower the density, lower the height, I should say, on the multifamily component. We're only looking at 88 dwelling units. It's not like it's what you see at Westgate or at Zanjero with very high-density multifamily. This project will be high quality. It'll meet all of the standards that are required by the city through design reviews. So tonight we would ask that we receive the general plan amendment approval and zoning approval subject to stipulations recommended by staff and also by the Planning Commission.
Questions from the council?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Froak, did I understand that you've received no opposition from any of the neighborhood meetings?
Mayor
Or
and
no letters of
Councilmember
opposition?
Tolmachev, correct. So we had the neighborhood meeting at Westgate, like George indicated. We've done additional notification kind of midway through the project. Our mistake, we only posted the property at one location. I think around Memorial Day, we added additional posting signs. And since then, I have received one phone call. I think the same individual that was calling me as the applicant was calling the mayor's office. I've offered to meet with her. She has not taken me up on that offer to kind of explain what we're trying to accomplish on the property, but that's a long answer to the question. We've not received any opposition. We will have a lot of landscaping, a lot of building setbacks, and a lot of landscape buffers for the project when it goes through design review and is developed.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to, of these three items, I would like to kind of talk a little bit more about them. Mr. Frog, if you could maybe answer some of these questions regarding the multifamily. The objection was that it could be up to 4 stories. Is that kind of what the plan is at current, to go up to 4 stories? And how close is that building to existing single-story family residential units?
Mayor, Councilmember Melnar, is there a way to flip to the site plan? The particular slide. Thank you. It's a little deceiving because the way the architect laid out the site plan, north is actually to the left of the screen.
I'm sorry about that.
So the multifamily component, which is depicted on the slide, 88 units. The nearest single family is going to be north of Glendale Avenue, as Councilmember Clark indicated. To our south, and then to our east property line, which would be at the top of the sheet, are duplexes, which are single story. The way that is laid out, and again, it's very conceptual because we do not have a final. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Brent. So this is the duplexes, Councilmember Melnar. The single family is way over here north of Glendale Avenue. There's a landscape median. George indicated some of the access points. We are aligning. We're not asking for any median breaks. So we'll have landscaping on Glendale Avenue with the landscape median, the Glendale Avenue frontage. We will have a landscape buffer on all the perimeter, and then the existing apartment complex that Councilmember Clark indicated would be to the south. So if you look at the north arrow, it's pointed to the left of the screen. So the nearest single family is really up in here, which would be a few hundred feet to the north. There is some single family further east of the site, but frankly, I don't think that if the site develops with any multi-family component, which we don't think it will, based on market conditions, we don't think that this site would be visible from the single-family neighborhoods to the east. If we went to is it possible to go over to the aerial photo?
Backwards.
If I do that. So here's an aerial photo of the site. Here's single-family. There's an abandoned gas station that is not part of this application. It's been abandoned for about 15 years. Frankly, this property on the northwest corner, that's one of our neighbors. We know him. He talked to me last year when we had the neighborhood meeting. He's in support of what we're doing. The gas station that was referenced is off the corner, which is rare. That's here with a drugstore on the corner. Our site, multifamily. One of the things that was asked by the Transportation Department early on was to abandon, this is the Lamar Road alignment, which is the first major street south of Glendale Avenue. We have abandoned that, so there will not be a road back in there where, frankly, if the road was there, it might be a little bit difficult to defend the space, if you will, with not really knowing what people might be doing back in there. These are the duplexes I mentioned, apartments, more duplexes, self-storage. That's a care facility, and so the nearest single-family home, Councilman Melnar, is down here on Ocotillo, which is about a quarter-mile south of the site.
If I may, Mayor, how close are they to the duplexes?
The duplexes would be here. If the site were designed and approved with this configuration, the distance from here to the duplexes would be about 175 feet.
additional questions, Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
The other objection was about the gasoline station having an additional convenience store. With one already there, what would be your objection to not having that stipulation?
Our preference would be to have a financial institution on the corner. That particular end user, I can't get up here in front of council and the public and say that we're going to have a financial institution on the corner. The fact that there's a vacant gas station across the street with 2 billboards on the property, and frankly, it's been a pretty unsightly property for quite a while. We would prefer to have the flexibility, if the council wants to add a requirement that we are required to have a conditional use permit for gas sales and convenience store, we would certainly agree to that.
Okay. And the last item that Councilmember Clark recommended was the 40% developable land, to no more than 40% in multifamily. So what percentage do you, under this proposal, that you have now? It's Councilmember Clark said it's about 60%. Is that accurate?
Mayor, Councilmember Melnar, the exhibit that's part of the slide and part of the packet, again, we're only looking at 88 units. It's only on 5 acres, and the 17.4 units the acre, that's for probably 25 years. That's been the sweet spot for Glendale in terms of multifamily. Properties that I've noticed that have gotten approved recently are a lot higher density. Do we need 4-story on the site? Probably not. We could probably live with a 3-story height limit. The site plan or some of the renderings that were provided are illustrative in nature. The one is showing 4-story. It probably would not, because the site is so small, would probably not render 4-story apartment buildings. To directly answer your question, Councilmember Melnar, 5 acres out of an 8-acre site, I'm not the best mathematician. Probably 50% of the site is shown as multifamily. The apartment or the hotel that we're hoping to locate, should it locate on the site, would probably be here, and then the multifamily would go away.
Very good. That's all the questions I had.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Froak, I'm glad you admitted you're not a good mathematician, because in your narrative, you state that 61% of the site will be consumed by this apartment complex. It's not my words. I didn't do the math on it. Y'all did. Now, I hear talk like it's only 5 acres. Yeah, it's only 5 acres of an 8-acre site. So in essence, the majority of the site will be consumed by apartments. You keep saying a couple of things that bother me. One is that, well, we don't think apartments are really going to come to this site. Well, if you don't think so, why are you fighting so hard to make sure that you do have multifamily approved on this site, number one? Number two, you say that your client has it in escrow to a developer. Well, does that developer have any end users? Are
They
any
do,
of those
actually.
end users multifamily?
No.
Okay, well then why the adherence, the insistence on approving this plan with multifamily? It's not logical. Also, with regard to the conditional use permit for a gas station and convenience store, I put that in there because in your application, you are already granted, unless I put this stipulation in, you are already granted conditional use permit for a gas station and a convenience store. That is why I put the specific stipulation 3 in, to remove that. To me, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what the property owner is doing. the property owner, until that land is sold, is doing speculative zoning and wants all options open to get the best deal possible for that site. And quite frankly, it's being done on the backs of the people who live in the area. You say, well, across the street, there's residential. Yes, there is residential, and they're zoned R17. They're not a typical 5,000 or 6,000 square foot lot, and they're going to be looking at a 4-story apartment complex. That doesn't seem quite appropriate. San Bellino, which is the apartment complex to the south, is only 2 stories. And those people are going to have the benefit of looking at a 4-story apartment complex directly to their north. It's out of scale and out of character for the area to keep insisting on a 4-story apartment, and same for a 3-story, which is again why I offered the stipulation for a 2-story apartment complex. So I'm really concerned in your representations. Well, we don't ever think multifamily is ever going to come there, and yet you're fighting like heck to make sure multifamily is approved within this project. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. So I am asking that if we are going to grant you speculative zoning, there's got to be some limits. And I am asking for the limit of a 2-story apartment complex on less than 50% of the site, on 40% of the site, and remove a competing conditional use permit, which is a gas station and a convenience store, which is one or the other gets killed off. Either you're going to kill off Circle K, or Circle K is going to kill off whoever tries to locate on that site. Again, it's not logical. It doesn't make sense. You're welcome to respond, sir.
Mayor, Councilmember Clark, I'm not up here to argue with you or anybody else on the council. If I had a room full of people that were concerned with a truck stop or a bunch of multifamily that somebody didn't like, we would have negotiated that and compromised before tonight. I go to a neighborhood meeting last year, no opposition. I've got neighborhood support. The R17 folks are 400 feet away, 500 feet away, separated by a major arterial street. The reason the multifamily is there is because the zoning requires that you have a residential component, and that's why it's there. If the multifamily doesn't happen, we have the fallback provision where the hotel would satisfy the paper requirement for the zoning for the residential component through lodging. So again, if I had 20 people here or 5 people that were concerned with the project, we would have worked with staff and would have tried to work this out. But I don't like to negotiate at the podium. I got your stipulations about an hour ago, and I'd rather fall back on what you suggested on the liquor license, where go with the staff recommendation, and in this case, the Planning Commission recommendation for approval.
Mr. Mayor, may I respond? The reference to the truck stop is beneath you, John, but I'll let that one go. Secondly, I believe we met at least on one occasion, and perhaps more, on this very project. And at that time, I conveyed to you, in no uncertain terms, that I didn't believe apartments were appropriate for this site. And you represented to me at that time that that was not the plan. So I was very surprised when I finally saw this conceptual in the packet that shows a plan that includes multifamily. And that's all that I have to say. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Mr. Folk, I guess is the forced, I'm getting the idea, ideally, it's going to be a hotel, and a 2-story hotel there obviously wouldn't work either, right? So, the height would work for either the multifamily, which I'm guessing probably the density is needed for it to pencil out financially for the project.
Mayor, Councilmember Tolmachoff, correct. It's a free market society. That's what this state believes in. We're a private property rights state. I've got a client that sat on the property now for 17 years that can't do anything with it. I spoke to him a few hours ago. He was going to be here tonight to discuss some of the past conversations that he has had with the city, with Councilmember Clark. We agreed just to have me come down here and represent the item. Again, I can't represent that the site's not going to develop as multifamily because I want to be truthful and honest with the council and
Right.
with the neighborhood is, I don't know.
It's in the best interest of the developer to leave their options open,
Correct.
obviously. And Mayor, I mean, and respectfully, Joyce, there's literally no opposition. There's no, we haven't received any emails, we haven't received any phone calls, nobody expressed opposition. And the site, I can't imagine the neighbors want the site to remain vacant for more years. So,
When I've walked the site, I've picked up debris. It's, it's not really doing the community much good. Like I said before, what we're going to do when the site develops, and hopefully someday it will be nice. We're going to work out all of the transportation components, access points. The median break was set up to serve the site, and so we're going to continue to work with the staff, and we will work with the neighborhood as needed once we do end up with final users. So is this speculative zoning? Yeah, to some extent it is, but we can't live with the existing zoning. And like I said before, as part of the presentation, the site was multifamily for the entire 8 acres, and in good faith, the owner agreed to the rezoning years ago and tried to find users, and nobody was willing to develop 50% of the site in phase 1 with financing and things of that nature. So we feel like that we've worked with the neighborhood really closely, and we will continue to work with staff and with the neighborhood and try to make this a high-quality project for the city.
Mayor,
I don't have anything else.
if I could respond just with regard to Councilmember Tomachoff. As you know, there's a 300-foot notification, which means the Walgreens, the Ella's Bar, the owner of the vacant gas station would have been most likely the only people notified. I did not raise this as an issue with my constituency because I had relied upon representations that there was no multifamily coming, and only was aware of it when we got the packets. So that may be the reason why you haven't heard from the neighbors regarding this project.
Want to respond? Microphone.
I'm sure that the site's posted with the public hearing notices, though, correct?
Do you want to answer?
Yes, the site is posted,
Right,
and
so
we do
there-
send out hearing notices to everyone within 300 feet, about 3 weeks before the hearing. Mr. Froak has also contacted the neighbors over the course of time on at least two occasions or 3. It was about halfway through the process, we decided that an amendment to the general plan would be warranted, as well as the zone change. So we re-advertised, and they sent out new notices to that effect. So there's been ample notification.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, having listened to the discussion so far, I'm left with this. It's been obviously a parcel under its current zoning that's been undevelopable. There's not been a market demand for it. It's an eyesore in the neighborhood. It's an eyesore on our named street, our main thoroughfare, Glendale Avenue. It doesn't represent well our whole community and people transitioning between downtown and Westgate. The neighbors have no objection to it as proposed. The planning commission approved it as proposed, and the planning staff has approved it as proposed, with the stipulations that are included in our packet, and then the 3 additional stipulations today, in my estimation, only make it harder to develop, not easier, and I think this is a parcel we'd like to see get developed. Even with 4-story, a small number of 4-story apartments there, it still conforms to that planning standard of transitional density. You have commercial, then you have some 4-story apartments, then you have some 2-story apartments and some duplexes, and then you finally get into single-family neighborhoods. So it's transitional, they're not abutting a single-family neighborhood. I think I can support this project the way that's been proposed by the applicant and the way that staff and Planning Commission have sent it to us.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I can support Councilmember Clark on items 1 and 2. Number 3, I'm not too sure that I can. I'm okay with the competition of 2 gas stations there, especially being what Mr. Froke mentioned, that the gas station across the street on the west side is not even on the corner, it's further to the south. I think a gas station should be in the corner. Anyway, it's my personal opinion. I can support Councilmember Clark's request for the 2-story and less than 40%. The third one, I'm probably not there, but I do agree that 4 stories is not a project that should go there. I am happy to see talks about this vacant property that's been there for years, but I'll leave it at that. I can support 1 and 2.
My turn?
I guess.
All right, I'll talk. I would like to offer a compromise for item 1 and make it a 3-story. I think our applicant said that they could live with a 3-story, and that's a compromise. And I would agree with Councilmember Aldama. I think having worked with large commercial convenience stores and gas stores in the past, they do a lot of work before they put one of those in. They really know whether or not there's a market. And I don't think anybody's going to put one in unless they know that there's a market. And so it either will or will not go in, but I think there'll be a market there. And so I'd agree with Councilmember Aldama to strike item 3. And item 2, I'd compromise, move that up to 50%, which is what the applicant said that it would be. And I could live with those 2 stipulations.
You have anything to add?
Yeah, well, Mayor, I'd like to know if Councilmember Clark agrees with Ray's stipulations.
I would be willing to compromise on one of them, but not both. I'd either like to see stipulation 1 remain 2 stories and 50%, or stipulation 1, 3 stories, 40%. Take your pick.
Mayor?
Actually, I'd like Mr. Froke to come back.
That's what I was going to ask you, is can we ask?
On.
Mr. Froke, do you think that you guys would have an issue if you compromise from a 4 to a 3-story? Is that doable?
Mayor and council, again, my client's not here, but given the conversation tonight, yeah, we could drop it from 4 to 3.
And the reason I personally don't have a problem with 3 is because there's 2 stories right next, so it's a gradual step down. It's not this grand noticeable difference, which I think is what Councilmember Clark's original concern was. Me personally, the 50%, 40%, I just want it to work. I wouldn't care if it's 60% or 30%, as long as it comes in and conforms to our standards, gives us proper access to the apartments. If there's a fire, police need to get in, that type of thing. But if it's maintained and no more than 88 units, that would be my concern, is that it's topped off at 88 units with 3-story. That would be what I would prefer to see. And as far as a gas
They
station,
lose 25% by going down 1 story, though, so less,
well, I'm talking about
Yeah.
acreage.
right.
How did it impact?
So you're still using the same amount of acreage. That isn't going to change, correct?
Correct. Mayor and council, we could live with the 3-story. I don't know what to do with the percentage, the 40%. I guess we'd have to say we could not support that. And 3,
Mr. Froak, I would compromise on 50% as suggested by Vice Mayor.
we could live with 50%. 3, I'd prefer, we actually just prefer the 8 stipulations, like I said, but we could add the 2 stipulations and drop the third one regarding the CUP. As Councilmember Melnar indicated, the market's going to decide if somebody really wants to put a gas station on this corner. The site on the northeast corner with the abandoned gas station and the C-store and the billboards, they closed for whatever reason, I don't know, but it's been in that condition for a long time.
Right, and I don't know if anybody remembers, but inside that gas station on the northeast corner, there actually used to be a Taco Bell inside.
Correct.
A lot of people may not remember that, so for whatever reason, I don't know, I think it's a great location, but it's never came back. Maybe the price is too high, I don't know. You had a question?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. I'm not comfortable with changing the percentage. I mean, if your developer's willing to go 3 stories, they lose 25%, so they go from 88 to 66 units anyway. So how are they gonna, and then if they lose space, the project may not work. So I feel like a 3-story is a fair compromise anyway, and leaving it at the 5 acres. I think that's reasonable, because it has to make financial sense for the developer to pursue it. That's why the parcel's vacant.
Mayor?
But I think Mr. Froak said that 50% would be okay.
Right, that's
That was
correct.
my understanding.
50% would be 4
M-
acres?
Mr. Froak
he said,
indicated
yeah.
he could support 3 stories and
At
50%.
50%.
That's what he said.
We'd be okay with that.
Okay.
So they would be, all right, they would be closer together, probably the same number of units, though.
Probably.
Not as
I mean, there's a-
desirable of a project. That's my point,
Thank you, Mayor.
though.
Right.
I was going to mention that the developer's representative said that they would accept 50%, and we compromised more and struck out number 3, so I think it's a done deal.
All right, well, my point is, if you're going to try to cram 66
Condense it.
units on 4 acres, it's going to be quite tight, and not as nice of a project. That was the point I'm trying to make.
Mayor,
They may work financially for the developer. I'm sure they probably wouldn't be happy about it, but I just don't think it would be as nice of a project on 4 acres as it would be on 5 acres.
Mayor and Councilmember Tomachoff, you bring up an excellent point. If we did have the 5.05 acres, it gives us more room for landscaping, stormwater retention, parking. That's like I said a moment ago to Councilmember Clark about prefer to not negotiate at the podium. We thought we had worked this out with Planning Commission a couple months ago.
You're going to end up with apartments and a parking lot.
Yeah.
If you go to 50%. That's,
Mayor, may I state that there are certain guidelines and standards that even apartments have to comply with that require a certain amount of landscaping, et cetera, whether it's on 4 acres or 6 acres or 10 acres. I think rather that you assume that it will retain the same amount of density, I am assuming that it will have to reduce the density to accommodate the guidelines and standards of the City of Glendale for development. So we're coming at this from 2 different
well,
angles.
Mayor, Mayor, if I could, what I'm saying is the lower density may not make financial sense for the developer, and then the parcel remains vacant.
Well,
So-
Councilmember Tomachoff, I would just reiterate, in a conversation I had with Mr. Froak prior to this meeting, before the meeting started, even then he was still representing that there probably wouldn't be apartments at this site. I don't know what's going on at this point. But I do believe that if apartments are, this site should not be consumed predominantly by apartments. This site was always intended to provide neighborhood retail. 4 neighborhood retail spots do not cut the mustard. We want to encourage as much retail on this site as possible. We have plenty of apartments in West Glendale. So all I can say is that I don't think it's appropriate to consume over 60% of this site with apartments, leaving very few retail pads, and maybe a hotel, but we don't even know that for sure. So,
Mayor, what if we said, if they're willing to do the 50% for the multifamily, but if it ends up being a hotel, that they can have the density?
but Councilmember Tomachoff, I never objected to a 4-story hotel.
Okay, I think
I-
that's
in my
important because I think the-
stipulation-
Yeah, okay, hold it. One at a time.
In my stipulation, I specifically say, any multifamily constructed on this site shall be no more than 2 stories. There's no reference to the hotel.
Okay.
When I made the original stipulation.
Mayor, I move the question, which I think we now have, we had a motion and a second. She then gave her stipulations. I would make the motion that we remove stipulation 3, that we amend the stipulation 1 to 3 stories, and stipulation 2 to 50%, and a vote on that motion.
Yeah, I think you
Second.
have to read them, don't
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second, and that's with the stipulations. Everybody
Can you-
understand the stipulations?
Can you reread the stipulations, just so
Mr.
it's
Milner.
clear?
Yeah, so the stipulation 1 would be any multifamily construction on this site shall be no more than 3 stories in height. Number 2, multifamily can comprise no more than 50% of the developable land on this site.
Correct.
That's it. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Point of order. Your stipulations aren't going to be placed in your resolution. Your stipulations will be placed in the zoning ordinance. Sorry.
Okay. Then I will offer my original motion, which is the resolution only. And I ask that this council approve resolution number R20-99.
Okay, we have had lots of discussion.
Second?
I have a second from Mr. Milner. I have a motion from Councilmember Clark, and we will do a roll call vote with Councilmember Oldama. How do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Now moving on to the ordinance 020-55 with stipulations.
Yes.
Mr. Milner.
Go ahead and make the motion and with the stipulations.
Okay. I move we pass and adopt ordinance number 020-55 with the following 2 stipulations. Number 1, any multifamily constructed on this site shall be no more than 3 stories in height.
2.
2,
No, oh, no, I'm
3.
sorry.
That's,
Sorry.
she's correct.
I'm sorry.
you're messing with me now.
We're just going to
And stipulation number 2, multifamily can comprise no more than 50% of the developable land on this site.
Did you want to second that?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, so we have a motion on ordinance 02055 with stipulations made by Councilmember Clark, seconded by the Vice Mayor to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Oldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That horse is dead. Okay. Moving on. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 26, please?
Resolution number R20-100, a resolution of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending the general plan map of the City of Glendale, Arizona by approving General Plan Amendment GPA 19-08 for property located at the southwest corner of Northern Avenue and 107th Avenue. Ordinance number O20-56, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, rezoning property located at the southwest corner of Northern Avenue and 107th Avenue from CS Planned Shopping Center to PAD Planned Area Development for a development plan entitled Northern 107 Planned Area Development, amending the zoning map, providing for an effective date, and directing the city clerk to record a certified copy of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Once again, the item before you is the approval of a general plan amendment and planned area development zoning for a project to be known as Northern 107, specifically GPA 1908 and ZON 19-18. The project site this time is located along Northern Avenue at the southeast corner of Northern and 107th Avenue, about 8 miles west of City Hall. The council has taken previous actions regarding this subject site having to do with annexation of the property. It was part of a council work session on February the 25th. We introduced the annexation proposal with the proposed retail and multifamily residential project, kind of in tandem with that. Council consensus at that time was to move forward with the annexation process. There was a public hearing on the annexation proposal on April the 14th of this year. At that time, that was basically the review, the public review, following the filing of the blank petition, which initiates the process. At the City Council meeting on June the 9th, the annexation was approved and is in full force and effect at this time. It is now part of the City of Glendale. Purpose for the hearing this evening is to consider GPA 1908, which is an amendment to the city's general plan from medium-density residential 3.5 to 5 units per acre, to high-density residential 20, that is 12 to 20 acres, 12 to 20 units per acre, and general commercial. Second request is a zone change from general commercial C2 to planned area development to include commercial uses and a multifamily residential component. The request involves a 10-acre parcel, again located at 107th Ave and Northern. The proposal is multifamily, residential, and commercial uses. It's depicted on the screen inside the yellow dots there. Again, this is the southwest corner of Northern and 107th. To the north is the city of Peoria. To the west and south are residential areas within Maricopa County. To the east of the site is the city of Glendale. This is part of an area previously outside the city, recently annexed, designated by the general plan as medium density residential, 5 units to the acre. Land use assumptions with regard to the planned area development involve either a commercial and residential combination or a commercial-only facility. The Northern and 107 planned area development, PAD zoning, approved by the Planning Commission, was approved, recommended for approval by the Planning Commission on May the 7th, 2020. With regard to fiscal impacts and assumptions regarding the development of the facility, there are 2 options. Once again, one would be a combination commercial and residential facility. That would be the lowest range revenue scenario. The commercial only would be the highest range. And as discussed as part of the annexation proceedings, the different possibilities are mapped out for you here. It talks about the revenue stream that would result from the combination of the uses as well as the commercial only use. Annual net benefit range would fall between $120,425 to $292,658. One-time revenues for the residential commercial combo would be $433,000 in construction sales tax versus $235,000 for the commercial only component. Again, this is something that the City Council considered as part of the annexation process. The site, once again, depicted here on the screen, the southeast corner of Northern and 107th, backs up to a fairly high-density, single-family residential community within Maricopa County to the west and south. This is the site plan that is included as part of the planned area development proposal. You can see that it includes a gas station, convenience store at the hard corner of Northern and 107th. Interior to the project site, actually to the west of the gas station, they're anticipating a convenience use, drive-through fast food type use. The remainder of the site would be developed as a residential community. One-story residential units would be placed at the west and southern boundaries, and interior to the community would be a series of two-story residential facilities. A little better look at the property, the landscaping, the layout, the setbacks. Just going back, I wanted to point out this is a 15-foot setback along the west boundary, as well as a 48-foot setback along the southern boundary that includes an easement in that location. Just quickly, some elevations that have been forwarded as part of the anticipated submittal on the Circle K at the hard corner, as well as the residential development, interior to the community, the single families, obviously at the top, and the single story at the top of the screen, the 2 stories at the bottom of the screen. With regard to public involvement, the initial notice regarding this proposal was mailed out on March the 26th, 2020 to property owners within 300 feet and other interested parties. There was a total of 32 mailings within 300 feet. The request was advertised. The site was posted April the 16th of this year. Hearing notices were mailed April 17th, 2020. There was a neighborhood meeting on March the 11th. We have received a written commentary from a representative of the property owners to the west, highlighting some of the issues regarding traffic, privacy, and noise issues. They've also talked at some length about the possibility that 2-story buildings could be placed next to the perimeter of the property. This is a 1-story residential development next door. The developer, working with the owners next door, has decided to go with the single-story structures along the perimeter, and the 2 stories would be limited to the interior, again, of the project site. Through the review by the Planning and Zoning Commission, the total number of units was also reduced from 91 to, I think it was 74. We've got that in the stipulations. I'll come back to that. With regard to findings, staff finds the proposal is consistent with the general plan objectives. It encourages a mixture of housing types and designs, as well as an innovative method for development of an infill property in this location. Staff is therefore recommending approval of GPA 1908 and ZON 1918, subject to the following. Number 1, development in substantial conformance with the development plan dated April 9th of 2020. 2, the developer owner of the shopping plaza shall be responsible for providing and constructing a CMU wall with a minimum of 8 feet in height along the property lines that abut residential zoning districts.
Excuse me, 8 feet or 6 feet?
It says 6 feet here.
Okay, I think you said 8 feet.
Did I say 8? I'm sorry, 6 feet. Number 3, a minimum 6-foot sidewalk will be required along property frontage. 4, street lighting will be required along property frontage. 5, turnaround areas should be provided for gated driveways. 6, a total of 74 residential units are allowed, as opposed to 91. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. I'll respond to any questions I may have.
Okay, and I'm trying to
Mayor,
figure out why my paperwork's showing different numbers than yours.
Mayor,
Yes.
I want further clarification because it's my understanding, Mr. Gerhart, that the applicant did agree to an 8-foot perimeter wall, despite what your narrative shows tonight. And I also want to clarify for any of the public that lives in that area that I have also received assurances that the applicant will be building 1 story to the west and to the south, abutting the existing residential units that are already there. So, Mr. Gerhart, can you clarify whether it's an 8-foot wall or a 6-foot wall?
You know, I was just looking at this in the code book for someone else recently. I believe the code standard is 8 feet between commercial and residential.
I believe the applicant agreed to the 8-foot.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
So I think that needs to be corrected within the narrative.
Yeah, if I could, my confusion here is my paperwork showing resolution 020-100 and ordinance 020-56. chart up there says GPA 1918 and ZON 1918, so I'm either reading this wrong or it's wrong on the board. I just need to make sure that we do it correctly where the public's not confused either.
Correct. I think it's GPA 1908. I'll have to check that.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
if you read further into it, it does say by approving general plan amendment GPA 19-08 under the resolution.
1918.
That's a mistake in the slide.
Oh, yeah, 19.
You see my
I believe that's
confusion?
correct.
So is it 1918 or 1908?
GPA should be 1908, ZON is 1918.
Well, GPA, look at your screen. It says GPA 1918.
Yes, that's
and
an error.
ZON 1918.
Okay.
Correct, that's an error on the slide, I'm sorry.
Okay,
All right, so it
just,
should
just to
be,
be clear, we are on resolution 020-100 and ordinance 020-56, item number 26, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody good on that?
yes.
Okay. That's my main concern, and then we can make the correction down here lower on the GPA, whether it's 08 or 18. You've got that? Okay. Okay, so with that, are there any questions? We're going to do a public hearing next. Public hearing is now open on item number 26, resolution 020-100 and ordinance 020-56. I have no speaker cards on this issue. Anyone wishing to speak on this? Any questions? Being none, hearing none, public hearing is now closed. Can I get a motion on item 26020-100?
Yes, Mayor. I move we approve Resolution 20-100.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hugh, a second from Councilmember Aldama to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion on item 26, ordinance 020-56?
Yes, Mayor. I
Mr.
move
Hugh.
we approve ordinance 020-56.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hugh, a second from Councilmember Tomachoff to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimous. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item number 27, resolution 020-101 and ordinance 020-57?
Resolution number R 20-101, a resolution of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending the general plan map of the City of Glendale, Arizona by approving general plan amendment GPA 20-02 for property located at the northwest corner of West Bell Road and Loop 101. Ordinance number O 20-57, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, rezoning property located at the northwest corner of Bell Road and Loop 101 from commercial PAD planned area development to residential PAD planned area development for a development plan entitled Evergreen Loop 101 and Bell Road, amending the zoning map, providing for an effective date, and directing the city clerk to record a certified copy of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Once again, the resolution and ordinances pertain to two separate requests. One is a general plan amendment, 2002, and zone change 2004, having to do with Evergreen 101 and Bell Road PAD. First of all, the request number one is the general plan amendment from offices to high-density residential, 30 units to the acre. And number two, a zone change from commercial PAD to a residential PAD. The project size is 16.10 acres. The applicant is Shane Ellman for Tiffany and Bosco, PA, representing, formerly Glendale Bell 101. I understand the name is Evergreen 101 and Bell. The site is located at the northwest corner of Loop 101 and West Bell Road. It's kind of sandwiched between the 101 and the flood channel for the New River, somewhat north of City Hall. Depicted here in the slide, the current general plan designation is for offices. The site there is just exactly west of the 101, right at the edge of the city boundary. This is the zoning map depiction, the subject property in yellow. It's previously approved as a planned area development some years ago. Again, that's the Loop 101 right-of-way just east of the site, and the 83rd Avenue kind of wrapping around the property and crossing Loop 101 to the south. Somewhat east of here, you can see the detail of the Arrowhead Mall, just for reference. Once again, the property location. A portion of the site is encumbered by the FEMA flood channel for New River corridor. Again, you're looking at Bell Road and the Loop 101 and the intersection of the 83rd Avenue. Areas to the northwest are largely residential. The rest of the adjacent properties are pretty much commercial. This is the subject property. It's tipped counterclockwise. North is to the left of the screen. That's 83rd Avenue that you see at the property frontage. This would be the site of the primary access to the site. The opposite end, there would be a emergency-only access at Bell Road. In between, you have a kind of a linear parcel. It's about a quarter of a mile long, maybe 300 feet wide. Again, you've got 101 on one side of you and the flood channel to the other. You've got 4 L-shaped buildings, 4-story structures, 60 feet tall, 26 units to the acre, a total of 418 multifamily units as part of this project. With regard to the history of the site, it's currently developed, it's currently vacant. It was approved as part of a prior planned area development known as Palm Canyon by the City Council in 2009 that was never developed. The applicant at this time is arguing basically that this is not a good site for commercial development, basically due to the size and shape of the project and its proximity to the Wash Channel. It's difficult to develop in a commercial format. This is just a little bit better look at the site. You can see the Arrowhead Mall to the east. You can see the access, the roadways also to the east, 83rd Avenue, 101, and to the south you can see Bell. Once again, kind of a high-density residential development site to the northwest. The rest of it is commercial. Initial notice regarding this project was mailed out on April the 24th to the property owners within 300 feet of neighborhood of the property. There was a neighborhood meeting also on May the 11th. Proposal site was posted on June the 23rd. The hearing request was advertised June the 25th in the Glendale Star. Hearing notices were also mailed out on June the 26th. There were some comments received. They're part of the citizen participation final report that are included in your packet. As far as findings, staff feels the PAD proposal would result in a quality development product which is consistent with the goals and objectives of the general plan by offering a variety of housing types or promoting some additional housing variety and developing basically a difficult infill site. Staff is recommending approval subject to the following stipulations. Number 1, the development of the site be in substantial conformance to the Evergreen Loop 101 and Bell Road PAD submittal dated June of 2020. 2, the modifications to the river need preliminary and final approval from FEMA. There is a conditional letter of map revision, CLOMR, that is required by FEMA prior to development, as well as their letter of map revision. Basically, that's where they update the FEMA flood maps as a follow-up. No building CFOs, certificates of occupancy, would be obtained until the LOMR is received from FEMA. 3, implementation of the traffic study. There are site improvements at the access point from the development onto 83rd Avenue intersection, including southbound 83rd Avenue right turn deceleration lane that would be required, a northbound 83rd Avenue left turn lane as well. Left turn out of the site will need to be constructed by the developer, requiring modifications to the existing raised median at the north of the site. Once again, the developer will be responsible for the cost of all the required off-site traffic improvements. 4, all half-street improvements on 83rd Avenue adjacent to the site would be completed with development of the property. 5, right-of-way improvements include streetlights at the property frontage, 6-foot wide sidewalks on arterials, an ADA accessible route connecting the site to 83rd Avenue right-of-way. 6, approval of a minor land division application lot tie to combine all the parcels. There's about 7 separate parcels that the site plan overlaps currently. They would have to be combined. Number 7, submittal of a signed Proposition 207 waiver. Number 8, design review for all physical development associated with the proposal along, together with a sound attenuation plan is recorded by Section 7.705 of the City Municipal Code. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Questions from the council? No one? Okay, we do have one person that wants to speak. Ken Watt, if you're next door, if you'll come over here, please. While he's doing that, we do have a public hearing. I'm going to go ahead and open that up, waiting for him. Public hearing is now open on item 27, Resolution 020101 and Ordinance 020-57. Mr. Watt, if you'll come to the podium, if you'd state your name, the city you live in, you have the podium, sir. Pull the microphone towards close to your mouth so we can hear you. You can take your mask off if you need to.
Okay. Appreciate that. First of all, my name's Ken Watt. I'm a Peoria resident. I guess I'm here because you guys invited me. Somebody invited me. The easiest way for me to do this is just to refer you all back, if any of you were here in 2016, to the billboard fight that we had. They wanted to put a billboard behind, in the same location, general location where this luxury apartment complex wants to go. So after a lot of fighting and meetings and so forth, the Republic paper ran an article that Glendale, when you came to your conclusion, you established a scenic corridor in the area we're talking about. And it goes from 51st to Bell. In addition to that, Glendale officials created that portion. They wanted 2 different zones, so that was what I consider part of your comprehensive plan. The first zone was the north, which is kind of, the word they used was serene, and the south is bustling. So, not that this isn't a nice project. I've been involved in all the meetings, I've talked to the people, I've seen the actual plans. I'm surprised you said 4-story. The last plan we saw at the Planning Commission was 3-story for part of them, 4 stories for the other one, for 2 other ones. In addition, I asked at all 3 meetings, how tall is the current commercial buildings allowed to be? And I got 3 stories and I got 2 stories. I also asked for a copy of the traffic report, which they took my name and address. They did not provide it, but today I was guaranteed I was going to get it. So bottom line is that, and he was here tonight, I mean, he's still here, Mr. Frobe, at the time was the director on the city council, and he wrote, the move, and this is his general comment, the move was intended to protect the views and preserve the existing washes, creeks, deserts, and hills along the freeway that swoops through the residential Arrowhead Ranch and Hidden Manor neighborhoods. And then it says that also there's 6 miles that along the 101 that includes Peoria, and we're part of that. So originally the billboard, my wife and I, in our house, we're butting right up against New River, the creek, the drainage creek. They wanted to put that 1,000 feet behind our house. So what they did was they made a crane come in and they put the crane up and put a big sign, and some of you might remember it, and that notified all the residents, both in Glendale and in Peoria, can you see that from your backyard? And John Becker, the person that ran that, offered the Glendale residents $1,000 if anybody could see it from their backyard. He didn't offer that to us, and it would shine right into our backyard. So again, I know this is Glendale, I'm in Peoria, but I appreciate the neighborly thoughts. And I will tell you that had I known this was going on, I would have supported Mr. Becker and his flashing big light. This is 4 stories. It will overlook our house. We're all single residents along that Peoria wash there. And probably you all know this, but that piece of property we're talking about used to be Peoria's. And then you, Glendale, and Peoria swapped those properties out 20 years ago for whatever reason. Bottom line is that we oppose it vehemently. We have talked to 2 different law firms. I wish more of the people could have been here, but to be honest with you, the way that the people that presented this to us, they made it sound like this was like an initial meeting here at City Council. There would be several public hearings. So after I talked to Glendale today, they said, no, that there'll be a vote afterwards probably, even though it's not required by law. So if there's any way to postpone this, there are, if you say, who are the other people? You got all these people. Just look at the list. I know you have access to it, of the witnesses who testified in 2016. Majority of them want to testify and put together something to fight it. And they're both Glendale and Peoria residents. So what we're hoping is you vote it down. If you don't, we're hoping you modify it considerably. And if you don't do that, if you could delay the vote until we have a chance to put our complete presentation together. But that being said, the main concerns that we have are the space itself. If you've never been there, I know you've been there, but if you go into Sam's Club and you come out of Sam's Club and right there to your left is the gas station and you turn right and you go right to Union Hills, we thought it was going to go right across there. That's not it. You come to that light and you turn left and you head towards Bell. And when you get to that big hill that comes around and goes down by Costco, that's where they're going to merge that one entrance.
All right, your time's up, sir, if you can finish, please.
Okay, so what we're concerned about is it's 4 stories, and we would like you not to allow 4 stories, and we'd also like you to consider the traffic and the safety issues and the noise issues. They don't have any sound wall. And our biggest complaint is this doesn't go with the comprehensive plan of any corridor you established, which according to the one attorney is a spot zoning violation, which depending on whether you vote this in or not, it'll be, I guess, whether we get a chance to present it. If you don't vote tonight, if you do vote tonight, then if there's any appeal or procedural thing we can do, we intend to fight this all the way until we've exhausted every option. But I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
can we hear from the applicant if they're here?
If they feel compelled.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Shane Allman for the record with Tiffany and Bosco, 2525 East Camelback Road. We're very happy to be here and very pleased that staff and many of the departments here at the city have worked closely with us. I do have some slides and presentation materials, but what I'd like to do is recognize that I've got Bob Caravona here, representative with Evergreen, and we're not just coming and speculating a zoning case at this time and a change in the general plan. We do have a developer that is ready to bring forward a high-quality product, a 3 to 4 story multifamily product on this site. We've worked close with staff. We've worked close with Tony Abo and the Transportation Department to make sure that any traffic issues are resolved. The gentleman, Mr. Watt, that was here to answer some of his questions about the height, we are more than 500 feet away from the residents across the New River Wash. And you know, when we came to the first neighborhood meeting, I think there was a misunderstanding that we were going to be perched on this knoll and overlooking the neighborhood there. And the reality is that there's a berm there that we have to continue to strengthen and build up through the Clomar-Lomar process with FEMA. And if you look at the site, it actually then goes down kind of in a bowl, which makes some of the challenges for commercial development that that haven't come to the site under the current zoning and general plan that's on there. The current proposal before you will happen as soon as possible. I know that FEMA, we have to work through some of those processes with the Clomar, Lomar, but Evergreen is anxious to develop the site. We provided a lot of quality and detail in the PAD development standards. So it's just not a speculative development. There are the details that are there that will be approved as part of the PAD, part of the general plan amendment as we move forward into the design review site plan. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but we appreciate your review of this and appreciate the recommendation of approval by Planning Commission and also staff.
Mayor?
You have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I've been to that site, I was the council, I actually brought forward the scenic corridor, that was something that I brought. And the scenic corridor, apparently there's some confusion, that applies to off-site signs, not to development. It has nothing to do with development, and this site is below grade. I don't know how far, I don't know if you know how far below grade, but it's not really going to appear like 4 stories because it's, and then the freeway is very high there too.
Right.
So do you know, I mean, what the difference in elevation, like say, for example, 83rd Avenue or how far below that grade?
Not, Bob, do you know the exact? What's that? Yeah, so Councilmember Talmachoff, Mayor, it's about 15 to 20 feet down. And so it's almost 2 stories that
Right.
you're talking about, that you're down there. And additionally, what will be up on that berm as well, it's just not going to be a bare berm. There's vegetation that's part of the site plan. We're providing a trail, a connective trail, all the way from 83rd down to Bell Road. And so along with that, you have the vegetation, which also serves as an additional buffer for any building that is there. So 2 stories down, and then any of the 2 stories that's popping up, you'll have about a story of that covered with nice lush vegetation, which will be across the site. So it's not what I think is what the neighbors perceive as this big luminous and illuminating building up there overlooking their site. That's not what's occurring here on the site.
Thank you, Shane. I've been all over that neighborhood. I went, and I think Ian and I went together to go look at the billboard or the thing hanging from the crane when we were debating the billboards. I haven't heard from a single resident in my district that opposes this. This is a challenging parcel to develop, and I think it's a great use of this land. So
Yeah.
I'm in support of it.
I appreciate that. And Councilmember Talmachoff, I believe that that's why you're not seeing the opposition here. You saw the opposition in 2000, whenever that was, 15, because it was a billboard. Even Mr. Watt acknowledged that this is a beautiful project, and what we are bringing is a quality development. And I think that that's why you do not see the neighbors here tonight, because it is a great project.
I think the density in the area of Arrowhead Mall is an important thing also. We know the challenges of retail. I'm in support of the project. I think it's a good project. And it's literally not going to look like 4 stories because of the way the parcel sits there.
Right.
Mr. Milner.
Thank you, Councilmember Talmachoff went over most of the items that I was going to discuss, and I am also in support of this. I haven't had, my district borders, this project is actually in Councilmember Talmachoff's district, but it borders my district, and I haven't had any residents that have voiced any opposition to it. And I believe having the skyline that you're describing, it's going to be a nice-looking project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. There's no one else. Public hearing is now closed. Can I get a motion on item 27, Resolution 020-101?
Yes, Mayor, I move we adopt Resolution R20101.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Tomshoff, second from Councilmember Hugh to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Councilmember Oldham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomshoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that motion carries. Unanimous. Can I get a motion on item 27, ordinance number 020-57?
Yes, Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance 020-57.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Tomashoff, a second from Councilmember Hugh to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on this particular motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote again. Mr. Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomashoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries, also unanimous. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 28, ordinance 020-58? Item 28.
Ordinance number O-20-58, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, rezoning property located at the southeast corner of 115th Avenue and Glendale Avenue from PAD, Planned Area Development, to PAD/SUD, Planned Area Development with a Special Use District Overlay for a project known as Phoenix Cement, Glendale, and extending sand and gravel operations until 2038, amending the zoning map, providing for an effective date, and directing the city clerk to record a certified copy of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Once again, this is a request for a zoning change, specifically ZON 20-05 by Phoenix Cement. It's a two-part request. The first part of the request has to do with the rezoning of 55 acres from planned area development to planned area development with a special use district overlay. The current use is for an inert materials landfill and a sand and gravel mining operation with an expiration date of 2038. Second part of the request has to do with amendment of an existing special use district overlay in the planned area development, PAD, and light industrial M1 zoning districts to extend the time limit for mining operations an existing 5 years to the year 2038. The applicant is Gamage and Burnham for Phoenix Cement. This is the subject property. It's located along the east side of 115th Avenue, just south of Glendale Avenue. It's located within an area designated by the city's general plan as appropriate for business park uses. Again, this is just alongside of the Glendale Municipal Airport. This is the zoning map depicting the subject property in yellow. It overlaps two different PAD districts as well as the existing SUD district, and includes the M1 zoned property to the south where the existing operation currently commences. It's located alongside of M1 district as other PAD districts. Maricopa County is located to the west of the site. A1 property is located to the north. Again, the site subject property depicted with cross hatching at the southeast corner of Glendale and 115th Avenue. If the photo was a little bit bigger, you could see the excavation occurring on the southern portion of the site as part of the existing operation. The current zoning request includes also the northern portion of the site alongside of Glendale Avenue. Just going back for briefly regarding the background of the site, August 25th, 2009, the City Council began with the rezoning of the property. They rezoned the northern 61 acres to planned area development, which permits 61 acres to be used for a business park, which has not yet been developed, and light industrial uses as part of a 217-acre master plan development. They also rezoned the southern portion of the property, 99 acres, to M1, light industrial. On December 10th of 2013, the City Council approved ZON 1305, which was a special use district overlay on the south part of the property, basically to accommodate the sand and gravel operation. On November 22nd of 2016, the City Council approved ZON 1605, a special use district on the middle portion of the property. And the special use district permits the mining and extraction of sand and gravel until 2033. So, with regard to the request at hand, what we're doing this evening is requesting that we add an SUD to the 55 acres to the north in yellow with an expiration of 2038, as well as extending the existing SUD for the area to the south from 2033 to 2038. So the site would host a sand and gravel operation from the north to the south, and the expiration would be 2038. With regard to the notification and involvement process behind the request, notice was mailed to adjacent property owners within 1,000 feet on February the 18th. The site has been posted since January the 23rd. The request also advertised June 25th in the Glendale Star. Hearing notices were mailed June 26th. We have not received any comments that I'm aware of regarding this request. Section 6.505 of the City of Glendale zoning ordinance requires that special use district shall not be granted unless the use is compatible with existing and planned land uses and shall not be detrimental to the following. 1, increased automobile traffic or impact on the circulation system of the adjacent neighborhoods, that there not be excessive noise or light generated from the site, excessive scale or height in relation to surrounding properties, hours of operation, inadequate parcel size to provide appropriate buffers or mitigation measures to surrounding properties. 6, disruption of the development character of the adjacent properties. Staff finds the request conforms to these standards and recommends approval, subject to the following stipulations. I believe there are 13 of them. Bear with me. Item number 1, dedication of additional right-of-way on Glendale Avenue to provide a half width of 65 feet from the center line of the roadway, also 75 feet from the monument line, shall be made before any permits are issued for any development on the property. 2, all half-street improvements on Glendale Avenue adjacent to the site shall be completed prior to issuing any building permits for development on the property. Required improvement standards are determined by the current version of the City of Glendale Engineering Design Standards. 3, development should be in substantial conformance with the development booklet dated April 17th, 2020. 4, all lighting on the site is required to be placed downward and fully shielded. 5, the applicant shall notify the City of Glendale Water Services Department of any changes to the mining reclamation plan should there be any modifications prior to or during mining operations. 6, applicant responsible for complying with all requirements of Glendale City Code, Chapter 18, Section 12, landfills prior to beginning operation of the inert landfill. 7, all requirements of ordinance number 2868 not modified by this request shall remain in effect. 8, all requirements of ordinance number 3019 not modified by this request shall remain in effect. 9, developer provide documentation to the city prior to final approval of construction documents and or issuance of permits that Form 7460-1 be filed for the development and that a development receive a no hazard determination from the FAA. 10, letters of determination issued 2019 November 27, aeronautical study numbers 2019-AWP-13499 through 13505. 11, developer and operator must comply with any terms required in the no hazard determination, such as installing and maintaining any required lighting. 12, if temporary equipment used during construction exceeds the height of the permanent structure, a separate Form 7460-1 shall be submitted to the FAA and a no hazard determination obtained prior to the construction start date. And 13, the builder or its contractors must contact the airport prior to construction if they are using cranes so that we may issue a notice to pilots. This is prior to when cranes will be on site. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to respond to your questions.
Thank you. Questions from the council?
Yes, I have 2, Mayor. For clarification, Mr. Gerhart, the dedication of the right-of-way and improvements to Glendale Avenue, if I understood what you said, would not occur until the site was developed, commercially or industrially?
Prior to development of the site as a
Right.
business park.
Okay, so that would be well after 38, correct? Most likely.
By the sound of it,
2038.
yes.
Okay, that's one question. Second question is, what is an inert landfill? What can you put in an inert landfill?
These are non-hazardous substances, non-toxic substances.
Well, I know, but
biodegradable substances.
Could you put it in an old car or a sink? I mean, what can you, is it is it material that is compactable to make the site developable? Or is it just stuff? That could be anything.
Good question, and I honestly don't know the answer.
Thank you.
Do you want me to answer it, or Mayor and
Yes,
Council?
I'd love to.
Typically, when you're dealing with something that's inert, there's no chemical reaction, there's nothing biodegradable type element or rusting. So you look at things such as concrete, stone, that's an inert material.
The reason I ask that is because at one point I remember a sand and gravel operation, maybe it was Phoenix Cement, saying that the soil in that area is no good right now for development. So one of the benefits of the sand and gravel operation was that they would be filling the areas that had been removed of sand and gravel with good compactable soil that would make it ripe or ready for development. So if you can throw concrete blocks in there or whatever, I know that, for example, O'Neill Ranch was built on a landfill that was filled with inert. That's between 67th, 59th, Bethany to Camelback. And some of the land subsided, and some of the houses started to crack, develop big cracks because of the inert stuff in the landfill. So I guess my question is, why are we allowing them to put inert stuff in there and not good old-fashioned dirt that will compact properly and make it ready for development? Just a question. Maybe it needs
Well,
to be
I'll take a
answered by
stab
the
at that.
applicant.
Actually, that just comes down to if it would have been compacted properly and tested, inert could be
Okay.
rocks. If it's not compacted properly, then you can have that problem with settling.
Okay. I just don't want it to be a future problem for whatever is developed on top of that land, that they're going to have to worry about subsidence and cracks down the road.
Understand? Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yes, Mayor, that was one of the questions I have is, what, will we be left with a developable piece of property in 2038 when the sand and gravel mining operation has concluded? Well, there's not, I don't think is there anything in here that the property has to be, I don't know how much, is it going to be lowered down 5 feet, 3 feet? I mean, what are we going to be left with in 2038?
Is the applicant here? Would you like to speak on this?
Mayor, I also have a presentation. Did you want me to address just the question at the moment?
Well, let's do the questions and see what goes from there.
Okay. Mayor, I asked Frank Turk with Phoenix Cement to join me. And just for your record, my name is Stephen Anderson with Gamage and Burnham. My address is 40 North Central, 20th floor. Frank, you need to introduce yourself, too.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Frank Turk with Phoenix Cement, Director of Land and Reclamation for the company. So inert landfills are basically any material that, like was mentioned, does not leach. It's inert rock, soil, concrete, brick, no wood, none of the products that you were talking about. We don't take any construction debris or anything like that. So what we do after mining the site to depth, we compact in lifts to bring it up at a compaction rate defined by our reclamation plan. So it basically allows us to ensure proper compaction through lifts all the way up to surrounding grade or current grade.
When you say compaction, sheet foot, basically?
Either that or we can do, we have sheet foot out on the site. There are other different methods, honestly, stockpiling, surcharging. There's different methods that we use that help really surcharge the area.
And do you test that as you do that? Is there a certain compression?
Off the top of my head, I want to say 96 to 98% compaction. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. I can look it up.
And typically, is that suitable to build on?
Yes. absolutely. There are, depending on what structures and designs are required, footings are based on, what elevation and height, weight, load for the actual building itself or parking. So depending on what is put on there, different, footings and compactions still sometimes required, but it's definitely a buildable surface.
I have a question, follow-up.
I have a follow-up. Thank you, Mayor. So I'm not exactly, I'm guessing, I'm not exactly sure how you, but I imagine you mine an area and then you do the compacting and then you move on to another area and mine that area? Is that how it
Absolutely.
works?
Yep.
Okay, so what happens when you get to the very last area? I didn't see anywhere in here where are we gonna require you to finish that last area when you're finished mining it? Because at some point, you're gonna mine all the gravel and sand out of there and then go somewhere else.
Right,
So-
yeah, correct. And then consistent with our reclamation plan, yeah, we will fill the entire site up to grade.
Does the agreement require that, or is that just a
I know our reclamation
handshake
plan
obligation,
does.
or?
Sorry.
You can step back.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Mayor, members of council, the relative provisions in the narrative are pages 11 and 12 of the narrative, and essentially the indicates that the state has approved and will monitor and enforce a reclamation plan. It describes the inert material, like Mr. Bailey indicated. It then indicates that Phoenix Cement's trained personnel will review, survey, and test results and will require visual inspection of the material prior to accepting it for backfill. Phoenix Cement is required to maintain their records. Appropriate protocols will occur to ensure the backfill and final reclamation for each mined area is safe for future commercial and industrial development. Below are some of the protocols which will assure no subsidence in the reclaimed area. Backfill material will occur in moisture-conditioned compact lifts or layers. The larger-sized particles between 12 to 24 inches in height will not occur in consecutive layers. Sand-sized soil will be placed over the layers with larger particles to fill any potential voids. Layers will have a relative minimum compaction of 95%. So I think that the narrative clearly commits us to leave the entire site in a buildable condition when we are done.
Okay, Mayor, and where is that?
That's pages 11 and 12 of the narrative, which we are stipulated to comply with. That's our own narrative for the
Okay.
SUD.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one further question, comment, as long as I have the applicant here. You are offering a 90-foot buffer on the south side of Glendale Avenue. And while I think that's wonderful, I don't believe it's enough. We're working on Glendale, we will be working on Glendale Avenue in the next couple of months and reconstructing it. I would prefer, well, I wouldn't, well, I would like to see, but that doesn't mean it'll happen. I would like to see a greater buffer on your property as it abuts Glendale Avenue, perhaps as much as 300 feet. How would you react to such a suggestion?
Mayor, members of council, I would prefer to give my presentation and address the councilwoman's question as part of that presentation, because I believe it requires some context. Do you have our PowerPoint? Mayor, while the PowerPoint's being loaded, the executive summary of the case that's before you this evening is pretty straightforward and can be summarized by these 4 factors. Number 1, there are no citizen comments on this proposal whatsoever. Number 2, the staff is recommending approval with stipulations that have been agreed to by the applicant. There are 13 of them, as you know. Number 3, you have a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission for approval. And number 4, you actually do get your needed right-of-way for the Glendale expansion project that the councilwoman just described, as well as a much-needed off-site retention basin for your city landfill. That is part of the discussions that we have had with the city. With regard to the proposal, again, it seeks to expand an existing 160-acre sand and gravel business by 55 acres to 215 total acres on a parcel of land that's located across from your city landfill. I'll talk about that in greater detail in a moment. Again, the existing business has been operating on the site for several years now without incident and without complaint from any of our neighbors, most of whom are you. The proposed expansion doesn't change the nature of the current operations, only the size, and we are here seeking your recommendation for approval. Phoenix Cement operates on this site with a special use district, and so that's the SUD. So, next slide, please. Thank you. So staff went through this a little bit during their presentation. The city approved the original SUD for 100 acres of property in December of 2013, and Phoenix Cement started operation the following month. So we've been operating on the site now for more than 6 years. Can I have the next slide, please? In late 2016, about 3 years after we started operations and the original council approval, the city approved a northward expansion from 100 acres to 160 acres. So this is the second expansion we are seeking. At the time, in 2016, the city was able to confirm that Phoenix Cement had been operating the site responsibly and in a manner consistent with its unique promises, and that there was no record of public issues with the business from any of our neighbors. Notice no citizens whatsoever expressed comments or concerns during that hearing process. What are those unique promises that Phoenix Cement made for this site? First, we promised to put all of our processing at the bottom of our excavation, 50 feet below grade, where it is invisible from the public. Second, we promised to erect a 10-foot earthen berm around the perimeter of our active operation, which means that we're actually 60 feet from below the line of sight. Third, we promised to maintain all of our FAA approvals for our operation in proximity to our neighbor to the east, the Glendale Airport. We've in fact already updated those for part of this expansion. Fourth, we promised to comply with Maricopa County dust control regulations, which we obviously have to do, but such that our dust would not impact airport operations, a promise we have kept. Fifth, we promised to operate with a single point of access. We are right next to Glen Harbor Boulevard. We have proximity to it, but we do not use it. We use only the intersection on 115th Avenue in Glendale, which we share with the city landfill. That way, the heavy truck traffic has a signalized intersection that we can share safely. Finally, we promised to reclaim the areas on the site, that's what we talked about a moment ago, as soon as we finish mining a particular area. In fact, we have done so in conformance with our reclamation plan, and we are just about done with our first reclamation area on the site. So those are the promises that we made and we kept. So, next slide, please. Who are our neighbors? Well, our main neighbor is, as I indicated before, you. The main neighbor is the landfill to the north. If you're standing on our property, it's the thing you're going to see. It is, of course, 390 acres in size. It has a permitted height of 130 feet in the air, and it has a setback of 150 feet from Glendale Avenue to its vertical face. Now, inside that 150-foot setback, you do activities. You actually use that frontage along Glendale Avenue for truck traffic and things like that. You've got some equipment out there as well. To our east is the city airport. I've already talked about how we've tried to be a good neighbor and think we have been a good neighbor to the airport. I would note that we are separated by the airport by a large power line easement. I know that you've been out to the airport. You know there's a giant power line to the west of the airport. We actually own the land that the power lines run across, and we may need to talk about that in a moment. To our west, to the south, we've got your water treatment facility. And to our west, we have another sand and gravel operation, Cal Portland. That Cal Portland mine is in Maricopa County. Now, Cal Portland is a responsible operator as well, but as you know, and since they are in the county, they are not subject to municipal regulation. So they have no promises to make or to keep. We are different. We are subject to your jurisdiction. Can I have the next slide, please? We have no residential neighbors. That's why I think nobody is here tonight. The closest residences are all at least a half a mile away, separated from us by distance, by riverbeds, and other industrial operations, such as your landfill. So, next slide, please. So this is the current proposal. 4 years since we were last before you, where we're seeking a second expansion by 55 acres out to Glendale Avenue. In making this request, I again want to confirm that we've kept all of the promises, and those promises will remain in place. We're proposing no changes in those operational conditions. To an outside observer, there should be no change to what's going on this property, except that that 10-foot berm will move closer to Glendale Avenue. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is the 90-foot setback that Council Member Clark just mentioned. For us, this proposal is a little bit different from our prior two proposals because we are moving closer to a real public street, if you will, one that actually has traffic on it, which we haven't done personally or previously. And that's why we are proposing the 90-foot setback. Now, again, that's less than the 150-foot setback that the landfill has, as you can see just to the north. But as you can also see in the photograph, the landfill's got a lot of activity inside that 150 feet. So the landfill's got a vertical face, 150 feet away, back from the street, whereas we go down, and then the landfill uses its setback, which we are committed not to do. This setback, however, is a little bit more than just a setback. There are some things that are occurring here that Councilwoman has just touched on, which is the forthcoming expansion of Glendale Avenue. That requires an additional 10 feet of dedicated right-of-way from us now. So there was a question, I believe, about whether we had to dedicate improve Glendale Avenue now or 30 years or 20 years from now. Staff is correct that most of the improvements have to occur 20 years from now, but the 10 feet is what the city needs now, and we have committed to provide that 10 feet of extra right-of-way now. Second, we have committed to landscaping the area. It's in our narrative that we will put a xeriscape landscape of some kind out in that setback. Again, no active uses within our 90 feet. And third, and this is, I think, is most important, is that because of the expansion of Glendale Avenue, both to the north and south, the landfill is going to lose some of their drainage and retention for their site. Of course, they've got a vertical face, so they've got pretty significant retention basin issues. And unfortunately, by expanding Glendale Avenue, they no longer have the ability to drain their site on their own property. So the city has approached us and said, can we run a pipe underneath Glendale Avenue and then put a drainage basin for the landfill within your 90-foot setback? And we have said, yes, we're willing to cooperate with the city and support our neighbors to the north. We think it's appropriate for us to cooperate with you in that effort. The engineering of that hasn't taken place by the city yet, so we don't know exactly where that will be or exactly how big it will be, but we know that it's coming and we've made that verbal commitment. I did want to pivot again to the community input on this case, which is that there have been none. We've done all of the notice. We've had no comments whatsoever. We attribute that to our performance as a good neighbor and as a good responsible business operator, including our city neighbors at the landfill, the airport, and the water treatment facility. And again, the staff report is recommending approval of the request as filed, subject to the stipulations, and the Planning Commission is recommending unanimous approval. Now, as for Councilwoman Clark's request about the setback, and I'm sorry, I keep calling you Councilwoman Clark. Are you the Vice Mayor still, or Council?
No.
Okay. All right.
That gentleman is.
Okay, good. Thank you. The Councilwoman has suggested a 300-foot setback might be more appropriate. I find myself in the same position that your former planning director did about an hour and a half ago, which is I'm being asked to negotiate from the podium. We had obviously met with the Councilwoman when we started this process, and this was not an issue that we talked about at that time. It's a big hit. It's 9% of the site that's proposed for the expansion. This is not an inconsequential expansion of the setback request that we have proposed for you. We think the proposal we've made before you is a reasonable one. It has good support, and we think that that we have performed in a way that warrants your consideration for approval as presented. Again, that includes the retention basin and 10 feet of dedicated right-of-way that was part of the support of the Glendale widening project. With that, Mayor, I would be happy to answer questions from the council.
All right, questions?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Anderson, I appreciate your presentation and your remarks. And to tell you the truth, I was not aware that it was a 90-foot setback until I read the material that we had in our packets. Knowing that there's a 150-foot setback on the Glendale side, I would at least like to replicate or mirror such a setback, because I believe that Glendale Avenue is our namesake street throughout the entire city. And whenever we have an opportunity to preserve it, protect it, or beautify it, that we should make every opportunity to do so. And no, it was not my intent to negotiate from the podium. I mean, as I said, I spent this weekend reading the material, and that's when it came to my attention. So while I appreciate the 10-foot dedication, that 10-foot dedication is part of the 90 feet that you're giving up. Is that not correct?
Mayor, members of council, yes, the 10
Okay.
feet is why this is a 90-foot setback as opposed to a 100-foot
Okay.
setback. I will tell you, I've had the opportunity to discuss the councilwoman's suggestion, and her logic is appealing. The landfill is set back 150 feet, and it would seem reasonable that we respect that similar 150-foot setback. So that would be an acceptable compromise to us.
I would be very appreciative of that, so that at least both sides of the street are mirroring one another. So thank you for that gesture, that generous gesture. I do appreciate it.
Okay, so I guess my question for you is, we don't need to have that in our ordinance. That's something that can be just acknowledged here, and you'll write it into your contract with the city. Is that correct?
Mayor, members of council, that's a good question, because we do have this forthcoming drainage easement and dedication that's going to happen for the Glendale expansion. But I think that Mr. Bailey and I would agree that this probably should be a specific added stipulation that there be a 150-foot setback. And that would be acceptable to us as an additional stipulation,
Okay,
number
well,
14.
we'll go ahead and have Councilmember Clerk do that when we make the motion.
Thank you.
You'll do it? Okay.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, public hearing is now open for the public on ordinance 020-58. I have no speaker cards on this issue. Anyone wishing to speak? Hearing none, public hearing is now closed. Okay, can I get a motion on ordinance 020-58?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I move we adopt ordinance number 020-58 with the additional stipulation of a 150-foot setback provided by the applicant as discussed in this meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Turner, second Councilmember Clark to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. Councilmember Oldama, how do you vote? Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Just for the record, Councilmember Oldama voted aye. Councilmember Hugh?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner?
Aye.
Vice Mayor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries with stipulation. Now moving on to ordinances. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item number 29, ordinance 020-59?
Ordinance number O20-59, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing cash and appropriation balance transfers between budget items in the adopted fiscal year 2019-2020 and 2020-2021 budgets.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report is our Budget and Finance Director, Lisette Camacho.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This ordinance is to approve fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021 appropriation or budget transfers. These transfers are consistent with the city's cash and budget appropriation transfer policy, and the city's total budget appropriation across all funds for both years remains unchanged with this action. Exhibit A contains the budget transfers for fiscal year 2020. Lines 1 to 3 through 3 transfers appropriation into fiscal year 2020 COVID-19 expenditure tracking divisions. Line 4 contains transfers of appropriation from workers' compensation contingency to workers' compensation operating budget for claims. Exhibit B contains the budget transfers for fiscal year 2021. Lines 1 through 5 is a transfer of appropriation for the COVID-19 expenditure tracking divisions. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from the council? Seeing none, I have no speaker cards on this issue. Can I get a motion on ordinance 020-59, item number 29?
Mayor,
Good.
Yeah, motion to approve item number 29, ordinance number 020-59.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Aldama, second from Councilmember Hugh to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff is not available at the moment. The chair votes aye. It does pass. The motion does pass. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 30, ordinance 020-60?
Ordinance number O20-60, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing the execution of warranty deeds, easements, and maps of dedication at various locations throughout the city, and directing the city clerk to record a certified copy of the ordinance.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report this evening is Jamie Chapin, Principal Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is a request for City Council to waive reading beyond the title and adopt an ordinance accepting various real property interests throughout the city. These real property interests consist of rights-of-way for roadway and associated improvements, and easements for water lines, sewer lines, sidewalks, and public utilities. These interests are being granted by private property owners in conjunction with development projects. And by accepting these interests, the city will be able to operate and maintain our facilities. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on any of the specific items or process in general.
Questions from the council? Seeing none, I have no speaker cards on this item. Can I get a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I move we approve and adopt ordinance number 20-60.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Hugh for ordinance 020-60, item number 30, a second from Councilmember Clark to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff is not back yet. Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion does carry. Moving on to item number 31, ordinance 020-61.
Ordinance number O20-61, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending the Glendale City Code, Chapter 10, title regarding cable television.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report is Don Bessler, Chief Capital Improvement Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Mayor, Don Bessler from Engineering. The ordinance before you tonight that our clerk read is intended to amend a current chapter of the City Code, Chapter 10, by inserting the words telecom and fiber into the title, and the title that, as it exists today, refers to cable television. The step, if approved, would bring our code into alignment with the Arizona revised statutes that were amended over the last several years to make sure the intent of it and the background of it is to get cities to work together to have similar jurisdictional language so that the telecom and cable providers had similar conditions as they worked through the valley. I can answer any other questions that you have. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions?
Mayor?
Seeing you have a question, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Does this change in any way restrict our ability to regulate or our authority over these entities?
Mayor, Councilmember Turner, it doesn't restrict our ability to continue to regulate the use of the right-of-way, but it does. We've always had the responsibility to be reasonable, fair, and consistent. So, no, it doesn't restrict us from being able to do that. As you know, every time we do a license agreement or something similar, we come back to the City Council and have you vote on those items individually. So we don't think it does. This is also an item that was supported by the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and I know there was a lot of work on that, and members of this council may have served on those committees.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have no speaker cards on anyone needing to speak on this. If there's no other questions, can I get a motion for ordinance 020-61 or item number 31?
Yes, Mayor. I move we pass and adopt ordinance 020-61.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Clark, second from Councilmember Hugh to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote? Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
For the record, Councilmember Tomachoff voted aye. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries unanimous. Moving on to resolutions. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce Resolution R20-102.
Resolution number R 20-102, a resolution of the council of the city of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, adopting policy guidelines and application procedures for the formation of revitalization districts.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report on both item 32 and item 33 is Glendale Assistant City Manager Vicki Rios.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Mayor, members of the council, this is a request for City Council to waive reading beyond the title and adopt a resolution that establishes policy guidelines and application procedures for the formation of revitalization districts. This was discussed, this item, with the council and presented as a draft this afternoon at the workshop. And we answered a lot of questions at that time, but if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the council? I have no speaker cards on this item either. Can I get a motion for Resolution R20-102, item 32?
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I move we pass and adopt resolution number R20-102 with two changes to what was presented earlier. First change is that in Article 1, Section 1.7, that the language be replaced with, an RD shall not levy a property tax except as specifically authorized pursuant to ARS 48-6817. An RD shall not levy an excise tax. And the other change would be that in Article 3, Section 3.3, the proposed language be changed to read, 1 paper copy and 1 electronic copy of the application will be submitted to the city manager, the city attorney, and the chief financial officer of the city.
Second.
Okay, so
Meekly.
we're going to go ahead and take this motion for R20-102 as proposed amended as one vote. Everybody understand that? All good? Okay. So you've heard that. We have a motion. We have a second from Councilmember Tomachoff. Is that correct? Okay. Motion made from Councilmember Turner. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Explain my vote.
Go ahead.
As was mentioned in the presentation, and for those who may have been watching earlier today, this was presented to council as for background information earlier this afternoon, and I just want to express that, and this goes for the next one that we'll consider too, the improvement districts. I would just appreciate it in the future if we had more time between the 30,000-foot overview and the time it comes before us for action. There's really been no opportunity for us to digest these changes or to get input from residents or anyone else that we know that we could look to for this. Fortunately, the action we take tonight will be amendable, and we can change it in the future, but just for reference sake for management, I would like to have more time between the presentation and a workshop and our actual action. And with that, I vote aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion does carry. Ms. Bauer, item 33, Resolution R20-103, please.
Resolution number R 20-103, a resolution of the council of the city of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, adopting policy guidelines and application procedures for the formation of municipal improvement districts.
Mayor, excuse me, Mayor, members of the council, this is a request for City Council to waive reading beyond the title and adopt a resolution that establishes policy guidelines and application procedures for the formation of improvement districts. This item was also discussed this afternoon at the workshop, and there were questions and answers at that time. But if there are any other questions, I can answer your questions about this item now.
Okay, any questions? No questions. Okay, I have no speaker cards on this either. So I know there's going to be an amendment from the floor. Ms. Tomachoff.
Yes, there will be. Thank you, Mayor. I move we adopt Resolution R 20-103 and amend Article 3, Section 3.3 to read, and one paper copy and one electronic copy of the application will be submitted to the city manager, the city attorney, and the chief financial officer of the city.
Second.
I'm trying to figure out if you made that motion correctly or not.
Michael.
I thought she did.
Oh, I was just trying to remember how you did
Want me
that.
to do it again?
Yeah, go ahead and do it one more time, just make
Okay.
sure.
I move that we adopt Resolution R 20-103 and amend Article 3, Section 3.3 to read, one paper copy and one electronic copy of the application will be submitted to the city manager, the city attorney, and the chief financial officer of the city.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Tomachoff, a second Councilmember Melner to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, we are voting on this action with that proposed amendment as all one action. Councilmember Eldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, the motion carries. Request for future workshop and executive session. Do I have a motion for a future workshop and, a future meeting and a future workshop and a future executive session? Vice Mayor.
I move that we hold a special city council voting meeting on Monday, August 17, 2020, at 10 a.m. in the Civic Center, 5750 West Glen Drive. I further move that we hold the next regularly scheduled city council workshop on Tuesday, August 25, 2020, at 12:30 p.m. in the Civic Center, 5750 West Glen Drive, to be followed by an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from the Vice Mayor, a second from Councilmember Clark. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it. That motion does carry. Moving on to council comments and suggestions. Councilmember Eldama.
None at this time, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark.
Yes, Mayor, I've been dying to announce this all evening because it really is a big deal. So I'm going to read some remarks to you. I'm excited to share that Verizon Innovative Learning Schools, a nonprofit arm of Verizon Wireless, will equip every student and every teacher at Desert Spirit Elementary School and Sunset Vista Elementary School with a tablet and with up to 4 years of data, providing access for learning in the classroom or at home. By providing tablets and access, Verizon Innovative Learning Schools helps under-resourced students develop the tools and confidence they need to thrive in today's digital learning environment. We are very grateful, and we really are very grateful, that this organization selected these two Glendale schools, and we look forward to highlighting the schools and Verizon over the next few weeks. So you will hear more about this very generous act, because that's a lot of tablets. And 4 years of internet access for those tablets is indeed represents a significant amount of donation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Hugh.
Nothing, Mayor.
Councilmember Tomachoff.
I would like to congratulate Councilmember Hugh, Councilmember Melner, Councilmember Clark, and Mayor Wires on the reelection. Congratulations to the four of you. Look forward to serving with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. It's sad for me to have to share with those in my district and citywide that we had another fatal fire in the Barrel District within the last week. And despite the best efforts of our fire department, a life was lost, and I just would like to, again, strongly ask and suggest that all of you watching, make sure you have working smoke detectors in your homes. Test them regularly. If you don't have a smoke detector and you need assistance getting smoke detectors, please contact my office, and we'll make sure we get you hooked up. Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, and I'll keep mine very brief. I want to thank the citizens of Glendale for their faith in supporting myself and Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Hugh, and Councilmember Milner. I know I'll speak for myself, but I think I'm also speaking for the rest. We're all going to try as hard as we can to make you proud, to do the best we can for the city. So again, to the citizens of Glendale, thank you for your support. Those of you that didn't support me, I'm still going to do everything I can to try to make you proud. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on. Citizens' comments, next on the agenda, is just that. Council makes this opportunity available to citizens to bring information and business before this council that's not included on the printed agenda. Council can only act on matters that are on the printed agenda, but may refer the matter to the city manager for follow-up. If you're unable to speak from the podium, if you'll notify us, we'll bring a microphone to you, and you can move to the seat close to the podium if possible. With that, I have one speaker card, and that's Mr. Livingston. Mr. Livingston, if you'll make your way here. Again, you know the rules. We're not going to let people be mean. You can state your case, say your things, but if it just needs to be done properly. Podium's right here. You can remove your mask so we can hear you better.
Hi, Gary Livingston. I live on Port-au-Prince in Ray Mauner's district. This is Ward District. And I personally wish I didn't have to come here, but I do so because of a lot of my neighbors and our discussion between us about this council and about our council representative and you, Mr. Mayor. The election is over, and for that, I looked up the word trust, and my dictionary stated for the word trust was one in which confidence is placed. For that, for this citizen, trust in the mayor and the council member for my district is long gone. Considering what has transpired over the years, I request the following questions answered by the mayor and my council representative.
11/20/20 meeting.
I heard and saw on a lot of the posters, the independent watchdog was eliminated. And I'm hoping that we have another watchdog over what the council does. And I would assume it is an auditor. So I don't know who it was that was let go, and I'd certainly like to know why that auditor or watchdog was let go. Mr. Malnar, before the election, stated that we citizens voted down the pay raise that you, Mr. Mayor, and Ray wanted, but now he doesn't want to work the business of the district as hard as he used to. I think that's pretty bad, and if it's not as good as you like it, maybe you should just leave, Mr. Malnar. You certainly, in our opinion, haven't done what the district wanted. You, Mr. Mayor, the trips to Europe and other places seem to be great, but for this citizen, I saw no return on our investment. So I might add that the arena was supposed to be off limit, and that suite was supposed to be eliminated, and that was when your previous council member, Gary Sherwood, was recalled because of that arena suite. So I would certainly like to see that eliminated like the citizens wanted then. I've talked to Ray Mauner numerous times about the immoral food tax that we have in this city, considering that all the people that are out of work need food and this and that. I don't understand why this city still has it. It was supposed to be eliminated a long time ago, and
Go
it
ahead and
hasn't been.
wrap it up, sir.
Pardon me?
Go ahead and wrap it up. Your time is up.
Okay. On my computer, I have a lot of people complaining about their water bill rates. And I've been filling them in, and that is a few years ago, this city took $15 million out of the water department fund for the arena. And now I heard that you now have $50 million in the bank, so why aren't you paying that back to the water department?
All right,
So
your
we
time's up,
don't
sir.
have, so we have a less dollar amount for the water that we use.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you.
I think Councilman Clark knows that, and I was on the water commissioners, and that should be done, and it hasn't been. So
Thank
I
you.
would certainly like to see that done.
Thank you. Okay, with that, if there's no further business before the council, we're adjourned.